It's a very Tom Fry thing to do, isn't it?
Right, I am back.
Why have you got a scarf on in your own home?
Because I haven't put the heating on, all right?
No, he did it to look cool. He just likes wearing scarves.
This is why rich people stay rich.
Yeah, it is how rich people stay rich. There you go, Dan. I haven't put the heating on because my gas and electricity monthly repayment bit comes up for renewal in a couple of weeks. So if I keep the usage as low as
and this is all
possible,
dynamite stuff.
then when it comes to renewal, my monthly repayments will be really low, and I won't have to worry about paying the top up for another year.
So you're going to freeze your balls off for like the next couple of weeks to save a £5 a month?
To be fair, it's more like you save about 30 quid a month.
No, you do not. You do not burn through that much fucking on your heat, like money on your
it's not just the heating. I'm not using like electric or anything.
Are you just not turning the kettle on or anything? I'm surprised. Like, are you like?
You are Mark out of Peep Show, and I claim my face.
That's who it is.
I don't use much gas and electricity anyway, so my gas and electricity for my house, my monthly repayments are about 60 quid a month, and I usually have credit at the end of the quarter.
Turn your heating on, you tight git. No. Jesus Christ.
My house didn't have central heating for 3 years.
Not how much ass down the pub it gets you for having credit on your quarterly bill. It's just mental. People just flocking left, right and centre.
Well, no, because it means I've got more money to spend on things.
Can we start the podcast?
Like buying a Rickenbacker 4003.
Yes, we probably should.
Start talking about...
Welcome to the Utility Bill podcast.
I just hope that Tom is shivering in bed for this month. Like going to bed like...
Like I say, I lived in my house with no heating for 3 years. I'm quite used to it.
Are we still talking about utility?
We're still here. We're still here.
Right. Is everyone recording?
Yeah, I am.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you really ready?
Yeah.
I said, are you ready?
Yeah.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Then, for the 6 people in attendance, and for the further 6 people listening from home, welcome to another episode of the Cacophony Sessions. Tonight, you join us for a rather cover-centric episode with me, your host, Dan Whitell, as we discuss some of our favourite covers, as well as the most emetic endeavours that we all despise, I'm sure. Sounds like a recipe for fun. If you're new around these parts, we're the music podcast that makes you say not how, but why do they do that?
I ask myself that all the time.
You can follow us on Facebook, we're on Twitter at CAC Sessions Pod, and we are also now a YouTube channel. Yeah, thank you. There's not much on there yet, but stay tuned. You may even catch a glimpse of some of our rugged features. Speaking of which, where's my background at? Tonight, say hello to my little friends. Sorry, I watched Scarface.
Never do that again.
No, okay. Okay. So, who have we got joining us this evening? Alex.
Here I am. What do you want for your other 2 wishes?
Well, one of them would be Dan B.
The advantages of easy origami are twofold.
Yeah, I got it.
Martyn.
Hi, I'm Martyn, and my granddad was responsible for 44 Messerschmitts being brought down in the Second World War. He was the worst Nazi mechanic ever.
Tom?
There's the implication of nudity that so often comes with having a bath. Not for me, of course. I wear trunks.
You're definitely a never nude. That is a thing.
Yeah.
I don't actually have a bath in my house, so
You've got 3 floors and like 10 rooms, but you haven't got a bath.
I think it's more like
Can't afford the
14
heating
rooms,
or the
but
water.
No, I haven't got. Well, I have.
It's in your recording room.
Yeah, that's true. I do have a bath. It's just not been installed yet.
So you use it as an reverb
okay.
tank. That's what you do.
Why are we talking about Tom's bath?
It's on the database.
And Dave.
I had an idea to start a covers band with my friend. We were going to call it Saran Saran.
Oh no! Oh, this has gone bad already.
I didn't like that.
Good.
Tonight's all about covers. We're going to go through some really bad ones, some really good ones from both the studio and the live variety. But we've got some updates in terms of what we've been up to and some new releases, I'm sure. The receiver of the signal, Tom, I'm sure is going to run down some bands that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
So I tasked you all with coming up with a news jingle. So unless someone has one now, we're coming up with one on the fly. It's time for the news.
Oh, that's the fact checker.
News.
Right, you're useless.
It's the fucking news!
Boom,
Yeah.
dum, 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 boom, dum, 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 ba-da, 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 news, ba-da, 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 ba-da. Fuck yeah.
Oh, I quite like that one.
Yeah, it's good.
I like
Sam.
that. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I quite like that one as well. That was a good one, actually. Yeah.
We'll start with Tom. Tom, what have you been up to?
I've been a little bit slack because I spent quite a lot of hours getting Gateshead into the Premier League on Football Manager 2022.
Waste of your life.
But
Where you save scumming.
I actually went to a gig. I went to the first gig since all of this started. I went to see Sleep Token play at the Foundry in Torquay. It was great. They were really good. I ended up in a mosh pit. I was the only person in the mosh pit wearing a mask. I felt like a ripe lemon.
You are a lemon.
But
To be fair, you are.
yeah,
a lemon.
absolutely. It's. I didn't want to end up in the
Sicilian.
mosh pit, but the Foundry in Torquay is this really great little venue. Like if you're ever round Torquay and there's a gig on, go there. It's brilliant. But if you don't get upstairs to one of the balconies where you can watch the bands, you will end up in the mosh pit, and you will feel really elderly because it's full of 18, 19-year-olds, and I might only be in my mid-30s, but 18-year-olds are really tall these days, and you just end up beaten up. But it was really good. The band were great. The support act was A.A. Williams, and she is definitely worth checking out. Relevant to this episode, because this year she released a covers album, and her cover of Deftones' Be Quiet and Drive is brilliant.
Amazing.
So that's relevant to both this year and the podcast episode. I thought that was quite good.
Nice.
Also announced today, Cat Power is releasing a covers album in January next year, so a bit late to be on this episode. What was she thinking? But no, in terms of new releases, my album of the year has changed twice since our last episode because Sugar Horse released their album, the Live Long After, which was my album of the year by a long way because it's just brilliant. It's like what would happen if Converge decided to become an Ocean-sized covers band. It's brilliant. And there's some big choruses, and they're clearly big fans of The Cure, so that was really good. But it is quite heavy in places, so if you don't like screaming, it's probably not for you.
No.
But then the new Maybe She Will album came out, their first album in 7 years, and it's like they've never been away, but it's the best thing probably they've done. There's a great track in it called Zara, which samples the opening speech of Zara Saldana, MP in Parliament, and it's just brilliant. And the whole album is about how the world is ending, and it's very appropriate. And musically beautiful and brilliantly produced, and just it's just, you need to listen to it. It's going. I will be surprised. I said this about Black Country New Road, and then again I said it about Really From, but it's nearly the end of the year, so I'm going to be really surprised if anything beats Maybe She Will for album of the year. Other albums, the Sleep Token album came out. That's pretty good. It's not as good as their first album, but it is still definitely worth picking up. I've listened. Oh, the new Converge album is getting rave reviews everywhere. It's a collaboration with Chelsea Wolfe and Stephen Brodsky from Cave In, and it's really, really interesting. It's the least Converge album they could possibly have released, and you know it's worth checking out when a really heavy metal band get a 10 out of 10 in The Guardian.
Yeah, that doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. Emma Ruth Rundle released a solo album, my album of the year last year. Her solo album is just her with an acoustic guitar or a piano. It's literally one person the whole way through. It's quite good. I don't massively love it actually, but it's pretty good. Black Country New Road have actually released 2 singles off a new album that's coming early next year, and they're really good. What else? Oh, there's loads of other stuff, but I'm blanking on it, and I know Dan's been on it. So
we'll come back to new releases because I've been listening to a lot of music myself.
Yeah,
we'll come back to that in a moment. But let's get some other people involved in filling in the blanks and what we've been up to. Dave, what have you been doing?
I've been working and just sort of chilling out, but I've been doing a couple of gigs recently. I had a friend of mine, Tom Palmer's wedding. That was
I know Tom.
Yesterday or the day before, which was good fun. It was at Plint in Looe, and like a big headland just looks out to the south coast. But yeah, that was fun. Aside from that, I've just been sort of going through a bit of a dance and house phase. I went to the Casa Weekender, which is kind of a big rave here in Plymouth, like a 2-day festival. I had some big headliners and some nice DJs. So I spent a couple of days raving up in the field, which was nice, and that kind of sparked off. I went with a load of guys that are about 10 years younger than me that I used to employ in hotels, so that was good fun. And then I've been re-listening
to our age then.
Yeah, they're about 40, 45, 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been listening to a load of old house records again, and still selling vinyl, still buying vinyl. Same old, same old. Nothing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, very much. And Al, what have you been doing?
I changed jobs. Well, I still work for Royal Mail, but I've changed from my job sitting typing addresses to actually standing on the mailroom floor and actually walking around and handling actual mail. You know, sort of thing you'd actually think of what you do if you worked for Royal Mail. So that's been quite good. Get a bit of exercise. I'm hoping to lose weight, but I think I've been kind of eating to compensate for the exercise. So I'll probably get fatter. I actually have been listening to new music. I listened to the new Knocked Loose EP. If you guys like hardcore, it's called A Tear in the Fabric, and it's fucking awesome. I was listening to that today. The new Don Broco album, which I think when I last saw you, Whittle, I said I wasn't overly fond of it, but it's definitely a grower because I've listened to it a few times now and it's really good.
Okay.
Probably not as good as the last album, but it's still pretty solid as far as like random pop, rock, metal goes, but I've been really enjoying that. And I actually listened to the new Converge album today. I'm quite a big Converge fan. My favourite albums being Petition the Empty Sky and Jane Doe.
Yeah.
I think I stopped really listening to them. Last time I bought was, I think it's No More Heroes. And to be honest, like, I was kind of done with them by that point because it got to the point where it's still technical, it's still heavy, and it's still great, but they started to sound a little formulaic. So I listened to this album, and yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, like, was it Ruth Rundle album?
And the Ruth Rundle, it's very similar. It
reminded me a lot of that. It's just pretty much a doom album, but with female vocals. Yeah, it was all right. It's not what I go to Converge for, so I don't think I will ever listen to it again. I don't need more doom metal.
It potentially might make my album of the year shortlist, so get used to it.
It just seems to be a thing for like metal bands where if you make a doom album, it seems to get critical acclaim. It's like it's the new in genre at the moment, and I just don't really.
I've never been into doom metal.
I don't think this album's that doomy. It's slow,
quite
but it's
doomy.
not. It doesn't feel like a doom metal album to me.
The way the guitars are played, the way that it's drummed, it is straight up a doom album.
I'd say the way the guitars are played, it's a cave-in album. There's far more. So it's not to get too bogged down in this, but there's too much major key stuff for it to be a doom album. It sounds like
it's too happy.
And yeah, it's too happy.
It's definitely not happy.
It's not happy, but it's got
I haven't
a lot
listened
of
to
the
it,
sort.
so
It's got a lot of the sort of stuff that like Cave In and ISIS and bands like that were doing, which isn't really doom. It's much more sort of post metal, which So yes, it's slow, but it's got the euphoric moments that Doom doesn't always get.
I think for me personally, and I think you, Tom, and Martyn fall into this category of, if it sounds euphoric, you think it's good. It's not that good. Being euphoric is not clever and it's not that good. It's not even that hard. It's just, I don't know. I just thought it was all right. I quite enjoyed it. I listened to it, from start to finish. I thought some songs sounded a bit samey, to be honest, but it's just not what I'm into. Euphoric sounding music isn't that clever in my opinion. So I'm like, it's all right.
Objectively, there are a couple of tracks on it that are worse than others, but the track Lord of Liars, which is probably the most Converge-like track on it.
Is that the one I was thinking about? It has about 30 seconds of Converge, and then it goes back to what the rest of the album is.
No, it's the guitars are all very Converge, but it's got her vocal over the top instead, and I really, really liked that. And the track directly after that, Failure Forever, is very, very like Cave In, and I really liked that.
I always thought Cave In were a bit overrated, but I mean, I don't know.
I always enjoyed them.
I'm just going to say, I will clarify this, where when it comes to metal and rock music, I'm the biggest sexist ever. I'm just not that into female vocals on any of it. So if you take a band I already like and change everything about them, add a female vocalist on top, bung some post-rock in to make Tom happy. I knew when I was listening to this album, I was like, I bet Tom is fucking wanking to this. I was just like, you know what? No.
To be fair, it came out.
And the Guardian are assholes, because they obviously, if they didn't like the other stuff and they like this one, they're pricks.
So I should also add, I really love Jane Doe. It's a classic album. And I've seen Converge live 3 times. So I'm not, weirdly enough, they're a band I've always enjoyed live more than I've enjoyed on record.
Actually, that's one thing I will say, actually. His vocals sounded better on this than he has on any other album. I don't know what they do whilst producing him or whatever, or what they did in the production, but he sounded better.
I think the guitarist, Kurt Ballou, has done a lot of the producing it from home during the pandemic, and I think he's had a lot more time to work on the sound of every instrument on it. It's much more polished.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. It's just not for me. I actually probably think it's probably a bit worse than that. Was it Foul and,
it's not as good as
I don't think it's quite as good as that, but yeah, that's what I listened to, really. That's all I've been really up to. It was okay, but, it'd be like if, Pearl Jam decided to make a pop album. It would just be like, well, the pop songs are all right, but it's not really what I want to listen to, it just is what it is.
Let's find out if Pearl Jam have made a pop album. Martyn, what have you been up to? What have you been listening to? What's hip and happening?
Baphomet remains elusive.
Yay!
Oh, man. He's having hide and seek.
So I've been working loads and cycling around and looking at stuff.
Mattresses and...
Went through 4 girlfriends.
Yeah.
Being a female problem.
Basically being a female problem and, and living a life of heartbreak, and that's what I like to do.
It keeps me grounded,
Keeps you grounded. My favourite band on earth, actually, apart from Radiohead, a band called Failure have some new stuff out, and I'm absolutely over the moon about it. I've been a fan of Failure.
Your entire life? You set him up and we'll knock him down.
Absolutely. No, I love this band more than words can say. I fucking adore them so much. I've only got into them in the last couple of years, but they've got some new stuff out. I mean, the main guy from Failure, Ken Andrews, is a well-renowned producer. He's worked with some massive people. I mean, he's even done production for Nine Inch Nails, which you think, well, that's a mark of absolute quality. But yeah, they've got some new stuff out. Also, my own band, who are also awesome. We are just loving. I'm absolutely loving what my own band are doing at the moment. Like, it's some really, really good music. I sent a message in the group chat to our own band saying I want us to be the new Radiohead, and a lot of what we're doing is really on that level. It's just very clever, very interesting music.
Weren't Coldplay the new Radiohead at one
Yeah,
point?
that is true.
So are you trying to say you're the new Coldplay?
Yeah, maybe you could be the new Coldplay.
We're the shit Coldplay.
The shit Coldplay!
Martyn, if we earn as much money as Coldplay, I really don't care. They can compare us to Coldplay all they want. If I have Chris Martin's bank balance,
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
care.
I'll bang Gwyneth Paltrow for you.
But no. For me, it's basically, I'm really, really excited about the new Failure stuff, but I'm also really excited about what my own band are doing. And so I've been working hard on guitar parts, basically. Just, it's been a long time since I've really wanted to work on pieces of music. Usually I just bang it out and go, oh, that'll do. But this time I'm kind of like, that won't do because Tom's bass lines are so complex. I have to work around them. So yeah, that's me.
Before we move on from mine, actually, I've got one more thing. I think I mentioned to you, Whittle, but has anyone else listened to the new Limp Bizkit album?
Well,
What,
yes.
the jazz album?
I kind of want to, just out of curiosity.
Well, if you like early Limp Bizkit, you'll like this one. They've done a they've gone back to their roots.
Instead of
I'm
break
listening.
stuff, he's going, I'm going to fix things.
It's actually all right.
It's not even that. They haven't reverted from type at all. They've just basically made the same album as Significant Other.
If new metal makes a comeback, I might have to kill myself.
It basically
It's
just
actually
made
all
that
right.
again.
I've been quite enjoying it.
To be fair, Limp Bizkit are one of those bands that are like kind of
Shit.
amazing band, shit
No.
frontman.
No, they weren't an amazing band. Wes Borland was great, but they weren't a great band.
I don't know. I think they were. I think they were a great band. It just their frontman let them down. Some of the stuff they came up with was really, really good. If you were one of those people that loved Rage Against the Machine and like were 14 and wanted to, you know, kind of rebel against society and stuff, they were a great band. But yeah, it's just the frontman. Literally, the only thing that was not good about Limp Bizkit was the frontman.
But weirdly, the frontman is probably the reason why they're so popular.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's just, he polarizes people.
Well, he summed
You
up
either-
2000s cool, didn't he? Like, if you found him cool or not, it doesn't matter. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's what the early 2000s looked like, him and Eminem. And then you had your pop punk stylings of like
Your spiked up
Mark
hair, your
Hoppus
baggy
and
jeans,
Tom DeLonge.
skateboarding.
Angry white male music, and I think there is a place for.
I can identify that.
So it's weird because I'm the youngest on this podcast, and I remember the early 2000s as being like, because I was into like My Vitriol and Muse and stuff like that. It was all leather jackets and skinny jeans. None of this like. I never got into the whole new metal scene. I was always more in the sort of indie scene.
That's right. What you're thinking of is just before the Strokes revolution, which was
Yeah.
like new rock and roll thing.
Yeah. That's like
Oh, I hate
2002,
Strokes.
2003.
Baggy jeans and hoodies and stuff.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the Strokes came along.
I was wearing an orange Hawaiian shirt with green trousers and a silver tie, a la some sort of punk rock.
But you've never aligned yourself
Ace,
with the
Ace
mainstream.
Ventura. But then, yeah, I have always marched to the beat of my own shit fashion drum.
I was wearing skinny jeans and leathers, and I do not have the figure for skinny jeans. Let's just phrase it like that. I still don't.
Speaking of figures for skinny jeans, Dan, what have you been doing?
You really do flatter me,
Jogging.
thank you. I've been skinny jeans shopping.
Get your legs out.
I got a new job as well, like Al, which was very exciting. I go out and I walk around and
In your skinny jeans.
in my skinny jeans, and I'm basically looking for fashion failures. That's really what I do.
Take those buns out and patrol.
I haven't got COVID. I haven't had COVID, so that's all good. Woo. which at this time this sounds pretty good. Today I broke my rule, my cardinal rule of don't listen to Christmas songs before December.
Oh no!
I thought it was don't wank in the bath.
The plug hole.
It just goes on you and goes everywhere.
Yeah, you don't break that one.
I succumbed, and I think I've heard Last Christmas about 3 times today, so I'm apologising on behalf of everyone.
Fucking hell, at work we've got like Heart Christmas on. I've heard every Christmas song like 5 times already today.
There is no good Christmas song.
Whoa!
There is no,
okay, we
there
should
is-
change what we're talking about.
No,
We're not having this conversation. We had it last year. There are good Christmas
Of course there
songs.
are.
there are not. There are no good.
Sorry, I
Christmas
didn't know this was
songs.
such a contentious issue. Covers. Let's talk covers. Oh no, no, let's not.
Let's talk
No, let's
covers.
not. We haven't done Dan, the other Dan.
Unfortunately, I lost my father a week ago today, so kind of grieving. But the show must go on. I kind of wanted to just mention that he was somebody who shaped my music taste as a kid. A lot of the songs that I like often will have been heard at some point in the car when I was a kid, that kind of thing. So he was very pivotal to how I've approached artists and what kind of things that I'm familiar with.
So we've got him to blame.
So yeah, you've very much got him to blame. So yeah. I just wanted to kind of mention that and almost pay tribute to my dad, who was so important in terms of bringing me up to go on and on about shit music on a public forum. So yeah, you do very much have him to blame for that.
You've also got him to blame for your football team as well.
Well, yeah, now I am the sole Queen's Park Rangers fan in my family, so I have to suffer the misery of that on my own.
I hope you have offspring to keep that going.
They've done a hell of a lot better than Plymouth Argyle, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
I got doing right, mate.
Argyle are doing quite well this season.
Yeah.
This is totally getting cut out, isn't it?
Both teams are doing pretty well, actually, in their respective leagues. But this is not a football podcast. And Martyn I can see him shaking in anger at the football conversation. So we'll quickly slip that one under the...
I don't like rushed Martyn. He gives me anxiety. He pressures me.
Can I just say, Dan, I find your level of dealing with what you're going through so fucking inspiring. And I just want to say, like, I have so much, like, empathy for you right now. Yeah, I'd never met your dad, but I remember him posting on social media.
Oh, he loved his social media.
Yeah, he was always like really, really creative with what he said about the music you listen to. And Dan, just want you to know we're with you, man.
Solid bloke.
I'd just like to say R.I.P. Geoff. You know, I loved him very dearly, and I hope to be dancing on the tables of social clubs in heaven with you and him in some point in the future, or leaning moodily against the wall.
We will be donating to St. Luke's Hospice for his memorial service. So yeah, I figured I'd give that a shout out on the podcast if anybody wants to donate to a good cause in helping people that maybe feel a little bit helpless in the situation that they're in. Please give kindly to St. Luke's Hospice.
I'll tell you what, with your editing speed, you might want to extend how long that donation thing is going to run for.
In terms of what I've been doing, as I say, been trying to kind of get to grips with things. Music has massively helped me through. I've, as well as watching the X-Files and Sons of Anarchy, the new Dexter is pretty good. I've completed Red Dead Redemption 2, which was far too long, but very, very good. I've started Resident Evil 3. I've been doing a lot, but music-wise, there's been so much new music that's come out this year that's been absolutely amazing. So Tom's gone through some of his favourites a moment ago, but I have to mention the new Silk Sonic album, Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak together. It's only 31 minutes long, but it's immaculate. It sounds like a 70s soul album. It's my favourite album that's been released since Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino 5 years ago. It's absolutely outstanding. Little Sims has got a great record out. There's been a few good funk bands. We've had Dumpster Funk had a decent album.
What a name.
I also really love the Bamboo's new release.
They're Craig Charles darlings, aren't they?
Their new record's really good, and they've done a cover of "Ride on Time" by Black Box, which is a funk cover, and it's really good. So I thought that'd be appropriate for this episode, but I couldn't nominate it as my favourite cover of all time. I'm not that ridiculous. There's been so much new music that's come out this year that we're going to have a cracking time in a couple of months sorting through them. We will do an album of the year 2021 to open up 2022. So that'll be the first episode of season 3. Has anybody else been listening to any other releases that are on the radar that people should be aware of?
I've got a few more that I totally blanked on.
Listen to Failure, man. New Failure stuff.
Yeah, so I've got so many that I completely blank on loads. So Owen Brindley, who was the singer in Colour of Fire and then in Grammatics, who are an amazing band, has formed a new band called Too Much Future, and they just dropped an album out of nowhere, and it's actually very, very good. It's very traditional indie. It probably won't make my album of the year list. Biffy Clyro released a new album. Don't bother. I didn't enjoy it. I hate to say that because it's a band that I love, but
we'll be discussing them a bit later on, I think.
Yeah, I think we might. There are more, but I might have to do a blog post.
Yeah, get up on there. coffeesessions.wordpress.com, where you can read some of our literature. There's not that much, but we've done a few articles. I did one on Stevie Wonder in the 70s. Tom's done one on post-rock.
And the article that I wrote, if you listen to all the albums on there, will take you a week. So, that'll keep you going till our next one comes out.
There's also Dave's Mixcloud on our blog as well.
I might be doing a house one soon.
Nice. And whilst we're on the subject of plugs, as I mentioned earlier, we're now on YouTube, where we've only got one video, which is inevitably me talking about Prince, but we will be doing other stuff as well in due course, so stay tuned on there. Make sure you give us a subscribe, hit that like button, smash that bell, do all the shit that everybody goes on about all the time. We've got a podcast to do tonight, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Covers. We've each nominated in 3 categories. So we have our best studio covers, our best live covers, and the songs that suck, the worst covers. All in our personal opinion, of course. I'm sure we'll all be fighting by the end of it as normal. So what we're going to do is we are going to begin. Let's get the good stuff out of the way, and then we can give some bands a good kick in, shall we?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll do the best covers that we've nominated. We'll start with Tom. Tom has nominated a 2004 song, so definitely prime Tom era there. It's by his favourite band of all time, I believe, Tom?
It is my favourite band of all time.
Scottish.
Who I've not actually talked about a lot on the podcast.
Get yourself cosy with a bag of popcorn, because I think Tom's going to wax lyrical about Areogram.
Oh, I might go for a fag.
Fuck you, Al.
The song is a cover of 1995 Flaming Lips song Lightning Strikes the Postman from their Clouds Taste Metallic album. They're quite similar in terms of their structures. It's quite a straight cover. It's just a little bit more floaty, shall we say.
In a lot of ways, it's a very straight cover, but it's... The reason why this... So, Areogram, my little background with Areogram, I discovered Areogram just as they were about to split up. So, they split up in 2007.
They thought, oh shit, we're going to be on a podcast in the 2020s.
Well, yeah, they split up mid-tour in 2007 before I could ever see them live. But the thing I love about particularly their first 2 albums, is that they are a band of musicians who make music that is quite often challenging to listen to, in that they are quite happy to blend lots of genres together, but it always ends up still sounding like a rock album, but with lots of different bits in there. Like their debut album in 2001 A Story in White is just staggering what they managed to achieve as a 4-piece band. Although they are Aerogram are most famous because Ian Cook, the guitarist, is now in Churches. That is where they're most famous. And the other reason they're famous is because they formed the record label in the late 90s that released Biffy Clyro's first single. So, and also just because everybody goes, oh, Tom loves this really obscure band. Aerogram's second album was voted the 10th best Scottish album of all time about 5 years ago. So, they're not that obscure. It's just that people need to hear of them because they're amazing.
I wouldn't say they're obscure. When they came round, they were known, but they've just, well, I mean this, I don't mean this like to say there's a reason for it, but they're one of those bands that got kind of forgotten.
They never
you know what I mean?
fitted with. So I remember back in the early 2000s, the way you used to learn about music a lot of the time was on like the free CDs that came with music magazines and stuff like that. Well, it's how I found a lot of bands. And the thing was that Aerogram got lumped in with really, really heavy metal bands and with new metal bands, and they are not a new metal band. If you went and bought like Kerrang CD and heard the Aerogram track Wood, which used to get put on a load of Kerrang CDs, then went and bought Sleep and Release because Wood is really heavy, you'd be really pissed off. And lots of people were. And so that's why they never really made it, because as by their own admission, their albums it's a cohesive album, but no two tracks sound alike. And they were quite happy to put acoustic like when I say folk music, I mean literally traditional Scottish folk next to a string quartet playing minimalist classical next to the singer screaming his face off over the top of death metal riffs. And they were quite happy to do that, which makes for a slightly unusual listening experience. But they're brilliant. I urge anyone listening, get the first 2 Aerogram albums on and listen to them start to finish. You will never have heard anything like it. Their third album, which is what this is from, which could be an EP depending on your point of view, is a bit more cohesive, a bit easier to listen to, but heavier. And then their final album is beautiful, but it is the most cohesive album they've done. And it has the track Trenches on it, which is a track that will make me cry every time I put it on. I used to...
Is that bad? I'm joking.
The idea is it's an excerpt of a letter written in World War One to a guy at the Somme or something, and basically they put this music to it that is just utterly heartbreaking. Every time I listen to it, my heart breaks when it kicks in at the end. It's one chord. They've made an augmented D major chord, and they just play that really big and really loud, and it just breaks my heart every time I hear it. But anyway, so the reason that's me waxing lyrical. I'm going to be done with that. Let's talk about the cover.
I thought I knew that was coming.
Yes.
This is Aerogram have history with covers. They covered Michael Jackson's Thriller on their Liver and Lungs EP.
Oh, I'm apprehensive to listen to that.
It's not that good.
Well, to be honest, Thriller is not that good of a song.
No, they slow it down and turn it into something really.
Yeah, I know. I just said that. Yeah.
Hold on. Are we just going to breeze past that? Thriller's brilliant.
What?
It's okay.
No, Aerogram's cover of.
But I think Michael Jackson's song is okay. Like, it's not even in the top 5 on that album.
I also don't agree.
Okay, for the point of the podcast, we will move past this point. But I will put an asterisk as Whittle is talking shit next to it. So
we covered this on the Thriller episode. It's okay.
We did cover this.
Anyway, yeah.
I don't remember you being that negative towards Thriller. But anyway, doesn't matter.
They covered Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it's not that great as a cover. It's very interesting, and they do something very interesting with it. They cover Disciple by Slayer. That is a very, very good, clever cover. But then this one, and those 2 covers are completely different to the original. The reason I picked this one is because the guitar, particularly, the guitar sound is perfect. It's like when you listen to that guitar sound with the riff going up, it sounds like what Led Zeppelin wished they sounded like when they wrote Kashmir, or it sounds like what
I'm not having that.
it
sounds either. Not having that at all.
It does. Kashmir is brilliant. Kashmir is brilliant, but it's recorded dreadfully.
Yeah, I heard this song, right? I heard this song when you put it on in your car on the way to band practice one day, and you were like, this is going to be the best thing you've ever heard in your life, and I agree, but...
I like it.
End of story. And I agree, yeah.
And I agree.
Coming from Martyn, that means nothing, because every song he talks about is the best song or the best artist that's ever lived
Martyn once told me I'm the most soulful singer of all time.
You have to catch him in the moment, and the moment is highly biased.
Martyn he's a very enthusiastic man.
To compare this song to Kashmir is a fallacy. Sorry.
No. So I'm not... bearing in mind, I'm not comparing the song to Kashmir. This is a cover. No, I'm comparing the guitar sound to what they wish the guitar sound of Kashmir sounded like. Because on the recording, this is what they were going for when they made that record. Or it sounds like what would happen if Deftones knew how to play major chords.
Sounds like a back pedal.
Lightning Strikes Postman, that guitar sound reminds me of when I first heard Minerva by Deftones.
Yeah.
It's that wall of noise, just absolute beauty. It's what I want to do. I want to do more of that myself.
Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely guitar sound.
I actually completely disagree. I listened to the was it the Flaming Lips cover?
Yeah,
right. Just make sure. I listened to it
you're
for the
gonna
first
like
time
that
today.
because it's more simplistic.
I wrote down notes saying it sounds like ass.
Really?
Like I don't know what you guys are talking about with guitar tone.
Are you
sounded like shit.
Are you referring to the original?
I'm referring to
the
original.
The original Flaming...
Oh, sorry. The original sound like a bag of ass. The areogram version is way
I know. That's
better.
what I'm saying.
It's not even close.
That's what I'm describing the areogram version.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not describing the original.
You confused me there.
I was ready to go off
the
then. I should listen more
original
closely.
isn't that good. So the original Flaming Lips
awful.
song isn't very good, and the areogram track is brilliant. Is much better.
Right. This is also
agree.
what I am. I'm here
That's
as well.
good because literally my notes are very simple and they say, don't know the original, but enjoyed this. Great guitar.
Yeah,
That was-
absolutely.
I think
That's what
we're all
I'm
on the
saying.
same
The guitar
page.
sound
I'm
is
It's just when you
similar,
start chucking in Deftones and bloody Led Zeppelin, you all piss everybody off, Thomas. Why can't you just take a compliment and move on instead of deliberately riling everyone with a comparison?
Song number 1, and we've had a fight. Okay.
Yeah, I love this track.
It is good. It was good.
Yeah, and Evold agrees with you, but somehow he
It
managed to
is really
turn
good.
people around halfway through.
yeah, we're all agreeing, but we're all still like, Tom, no.
Can we also all agree that the original is completely
I'm
wank?
not
It's
a big
not as
fan
good.
of the Flaming Lips. I've never listened to anything by them that has really ever grabbed me. I can appreciate why.
I like that. Yeah.
I fucking hate the Flaming Lips. I think they're a pile of junk.
The Soft Bulletin and Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots are both fucking classic albums, particularly Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, and they were great live at the
The
Eden
Soft
Project.
Bulletin is. I listened to it and I just didn't. It didn't appeal to me at all. But I love psychedelia, so I don't know what it's lacking. But I just can't. put my finger
Yoshimi
on it.
Battles the Pink Robots is better. The Soft Bulletin lacks balls.
I like balls.
Yeah, I know you do.
They were for people that wore stonewashed flared jeans in the early 2000s with a striped knitted jumper and had said interesting things about nothing.
Isn't that what Tom said?
Always hated them, man.
But the Flaming Lips actually started off in the early 80s, and if you listen...
I looked it up today. It was 87
and
or something. I was
their
quite
first
surprised.
3 albums, Clouds Taste Metallic, is better than their first 3 albums. And their first 3 albums are literally designed to put you on a bad acid trip. And my housemates, when I was at university, dropped acid, and I put these albums on as loud as possible, and I can say they work.
We will move on to the next song. So, also nominated as Best Studio Cover, we're going to go with Dave's choice now. Now, I was very apprehensive when this song was nominated because it's a David Bowie cover, and it's by Bauhaus. It's Ziggy Stardust from a decade after the original. So Bauhaus recorded it in 1982. It's a post-punk take on the 1972 Ziggy Stardust single from the Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. So it's very good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it's the version I've heard the most.
I wasn't familiar with it at all.
It's not as good as the original.
I recognised it a lot more than the original. Obviously, I've heard the original about 1,000 times from like every rom-com film for like 10 years. But
the reason I selected it is pretty simple. The fact of it's recorded after he's done his Berlin trilogy by a band that were kind of like krautrock rock affiliated or inspired
he was
at the
in
very
that.
least.
He was in with that scene.
So they're pastiching his glam rock era within that sort of genre. So for me, it's just kind of like a geeky sort of time travel. Imagine if he recorded some of his like 70s glam rock stuff in that era, which I much prefer. So that's really the only reason I've selected it. It's just because I prefer that particular version, because I would like all my Bowie stuff, well, 75% of my Bowie stuff to be recorded in that era if possible.
I was thinking about this earlier. 75 to 83 is probably my favourite Bowie period. So sort of like young Americans through to Let's Dance.
Yeah, correct. That's my kind of era as well. But you're not going to agree because your tastes aren't the same as me as Dan's.
No, I'm not. I'm very much.
That's
not
basically the
agree.
reason I select it. It's just because it's stuff outside of the zeitgeist that I find interesting, being re-recorded by people that are musically competent and good at their job. So it's like it got recorded 10 years later. And that's the main reason I enjoy that particular version of that track.
Can I take issue with when you said musically competent? There was one thing I did notice. That drummer cannot hold a fucking tempo to save his life. The intro drove me nuts.
I think for me, the problem with this track is I know the original so well, and it's just not as good. And
I don't think it's
that's
as good
probably a
as the
really
original.
basic,
I
simple thing
enjoyed
to say. The original is a classic. It's a song I love so much. I think covering Bowie is hard. One of my favourite Bowie covers is on the Metal Gear Solid 5 soundtrack, which is it The Man Who Sold the World?
By Nirvana.
By I think Midge does it.
From
And
Ultrabox.
that is a really good cover. I would really recommend
It is
that.
really good. I remember enjoying
if
that.
you get a chance to listen to that.
I quite like the Man Who Sold the World covers because there's multiple of them, but nothing
Nirvana's version
beats
is
the
good.
original. It's the same reason why Mad World I can't really listen to, because it's got so many covers, and I'd rather just listen to the original.
Yeah,
even
I'm
though
a
it's
Tears fan with the original is the best.
I didn't hate this track, but I don't like it as much as the original. So Bowie for me has two eras that I really like, and this sort of early 70s era. So when my parents got me home from the hospital, the first track they played me was Kooks by David Bowie off Hunky Dory on vinyl.
That's a great song.
So I grew up with Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust as like the two Bowie albums that I knew really, really well. And then my piano teacher got me into Low and Heroes.
Yeah.
Specifically those two of the Berlin trilogy, weirdly. I don't know why.
Well, it's probably like we're juxtapositions because my dad used to sing me lullabies from Low, and it took me ages to realise where they were from until I actually heard it 10 years later.
Yeah. So it's those two bits, but the stuff in between, I'd like Aladdin Sane and Young Americans, I never really liked that much. So this for me, the reason why I prefer the original, because I was listening to it and going, yeah, this Bauhaus version is pretty good. Why don't I like it as much as the original? And there are two main reasons. One, I've never liked the singer from Bauhaus's voice very much. Two, the reason why this song worked when Bowie did it is because he's got this sort of slow, nonchalant, cool going on, which this song strips out and ups the tempo, and by upping the tempo, it loses what made the song work in the first place. Because when you listen to the lyrical content of the song, it's quite this sort of Ziggy play guitar, like rocking out and stuff, and it's all this like story, and it's just
60s moon landing inspired stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't work quite as well sped up.
The cosmic aesthetic to the early David Bowie stuff, with the Spiders from Mars and he was essentially presenting himself as an extraterrestrial.
Well, if we're going to talk about the zeitgeist of kind of 60s space, design element and the kind of juxtaposition of minimalist German design, then like A Clockwork Orange is probably bang in the centre of both of those, where it's like a future dystopian type of vibe, which is what I kind of like. And I like any of that kind of like Orwellian, devoid of kind of genre or era, and just having emptiness, and you're stripped back to the bare bones. So and glam rock has just never really been my scene.
Oh, I do like glam rock. I do like a bit of glam rock. One of my favourite covers actually is Power Station's version of "Get It On, Bang a Gong" by T-Rex.
Mm-hmm. Again, that's taken
sung by Robert Palmer as well, and that's always a bonus for me. I do like a bit of Robert Palmer.
Mm. Well, I'd be on board with that again, because it's taking something from a genre I don't really give a shit about and bringing it up to something I do give a crap about.
Yeah, my favourite glam rock song is probably Blockbuster by The Sweet. I love that song.
Fox on the Run is the best Sweet track, surely.
Next song.
Yeah, next song. Going off track already. Next, Al, you've picked an Anne Boleyn song for us this evening. The song is called "The Promise," and it's a cover of When in Rome's track. It was made in the 80s. It was more of a sophisti-pop, synth-pop.
Like new wave,
song.
yeah.
Yeah, and Anne Boleyn have turned it into a more kind of metal alternative rock version of the song.
I would say metal, but like definitely a bit more rock. Like I listened to the original again today just to, for comparison, and I think the main thing for me is like when picking a good cover is it better than the original? And I think this is hands down better than the original. Like this I personally think the singing's better. I think the timing of the vocals when they come in and out are better. If you listen to the original after listening to this a few times, the other one sounds a bit out of time. I kind of like the changes they made. It sounds, I prefer the vocal style personally. I'm not sure, maybe it's an era of music I like more, but I think I prefer the electronics on it compared to the electronics in the original. I just prefer it overall. I listen to it, like Anne Boleyn's a band that my brother really, really likes, and I've got the album this is on. This is kind of like a bonus track on the album. I've just had it on my phone, and it always comes up on shuffle, which is why I did put it in. I was tempted to pick Holy Diver by Killswitch Engage,
which is actually quite good.
Yeah, what about you on?
I think that's a fucking absolutely amazing cover.
The original's better though.
I've not heard that.
No way.
Yeah, I think, but that's it. The original is probably.
Yeah, I'm
better.
with Dave. Killswitch.
But, yeah, but you would say that because you don't like anything like that was like slightly like, stick a cucumber on your pants rock music. So
can I eat that cucumber?
I was actually surprised by this song. I've listened to a decent amount of Anne Boleyn because of your brother, and hadn't heard this one.
We all have.
Yeah, he does force it upon us, and it was a lot more grown up than I was expecting, to be honest.
Yeah. I was quite disappointed. I was waiting for the guitars the whole song. I was like, "Where are the guitars? Come on, Carl's played me loads of Anne Boleyn. I want emo."
I really liked
why I liked it.
I don't think it needed it.
No, I think that's why I liked it, because it isn't like their usual stuff. It was kind of a bit more like laid back. I just really liked it.
I really enjoyed it.
It was a very straight cover, but with 90s synths instead of 80s ones.
Well, it was recorded in 2000.
But it still had an 80s vibe to the track.
Yeah, I realised when it was recorded, but if you listen to the synth sounds they use, they're straight out of, 90s dance music.
Yeah, but, you got to admit, the vocals sound a bit. If you listen to the original, the vocals are, they are quite bad.
Timing on the vocals is better, but the vocals on the original are a very new romantic style, which I actually I like the tone of the original singer's voice.
It suits the song a bit better, I have to admit. I think I prefer the When in Rome version from 1988. And I know that I'm the 80s, 90s guy, so I'm going to say that. But I actually don't really like the song that much. I'm aware of it. It was a one-hit wonder, I believe, When in Rome. And this is the song that that people remember from them, and it's of like late 80s pop singles. It's never really been one that I revisited that much, so it doesn't have much resonance with me anyway. When I listened to the cover, I thought it's an okay attempt. I don't. It's not offensive and it sounds pleasant, but I don't think I have any real.
It's one of those songs where the only reason even it's on for me really is like if I'm thinking of covers I enjoy the most, it's probably the cover I listen to the most.
Fair.
And it was one of those when you've got to come up with what's your best cover, like Christ Almighty, it's impossible, isn't it? Like there's so many. So I just picked the one I listen to the most, and every time it comes up on my shuffle, it puts a smile on my face, and I quite enjoy it. And when I go back to the original, I personally think it's way better.
Yeah.
Like obviously, the original is gonna be, technically it's gonna be better because it is the original, unless you're a Flaming Lips person, because fuck me, that song was tragic. But I just preferred it. I think it's maybe like you say, like because it sounds like that era, but that era for like me personally is my era, so I'm okay with that. It'd be like any song that made it sound a bit more post-rock. Tom will probably really like it.
If Anne Boleyn had chucked some guitars in at the end, I'd probably love it more than the original.
I think I liked it because it didn't
as part
have
of an album,
that.
I'd probably enjoy. As part of the album, I would probably enjoy it. As a standalone in research, because I actually quite like Anne Boleyn, because like Dan, Carl has forced this on me many times.
Shout out to Carl.
Yeah, shout out to
Hashtag pray for Carl.
Indeed.
Hashtag pray for Carl.
You won't listen to this.
So yeah, I listen to a lot of Anne Boleyn because of him, and I like a lot of it. And I think that because I'd not really listened to this track, because like you say, it's a bonus track on the album. I was thinking if Anne Boleyn had brought in their guitars at the end, I'd probably be well on board with this. As it stands, it's quite a straight cover with more polished vocals, but a vocal style that I don't like quite as much. And I'm not really into synth pop anyway, so whether it's 80s or 90s synths doesn't mean a lot to me.
That was my difference. So I think I just quite like the vocalist anyway. I just like how he sounds in general. So I think that's just a personal preference. So if everyone else just thinks it's a straight wanky cover, I completely get it.
I can see why you like it, and as part of the album, I'd probably really enjoy it.
I had it on in the kitchen earlier, and my mum also liked it. So there you go.
It's endorsed by Dan's mum.
Pass the test.
She's about the same age as mine. What do you think?
I'm still reeling from the fact that I had one that didn't get trashed. I had a pick that didn't get trashed. I'm still impressed by that.
But still, almost managed to get it trashed.
I did, yeah, that's true.
A broken clock is right twice a day. We'll move on, and we'll go to Martyn. So, according to you, Martyn, your favourite cover of all time is a song by the Futureheads. It's a Kate Bush cover, the seminal track "Hounds of Love." Why do you prefer the Futureheads version? Talk us through your decision here this evening, because personally, I don't buy it.
You're wrong.
I'd like to jump on this bandwagon.
The original is such a great song. It's such an amazing song. The original.
Yeah. End of conversation.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it good?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've just come to the conclusion I fucking loathe Kate Bush, so I will let that go on record, and I will allow you to
mute
continue.
yourself for 5 minutes. Then
I've come to the conclusion that you're wrong.
Can they both be bad?
I don't know, but anyway, talking about the cover, going back to like a conversation I had with Tom earlier about like the early 2000s when music was really, really bad, but like in the early 2000s, it suddenly got good again, and the Futureheads were part of that movement of like just really great bands coming up, great indie, scratchy indie post-punk bands coming out of like that time.
Yeah, and the Futureheads weren't one of them.
They were good. They were.
I'm gonna hear. Let's hear him out. That's
all I've got to say. I mean, I went off music, like rock music, heavily around this time because of bands like the Futureheads. I just didn't buy into the
Post to Zebrahead.
I know that this is pre Justin leaving Zebrahead, so I was around this time, there's a lot of indie stuff that really turned me off. And this song, I remember hearing it around the time and just being appalled at what they've done to Kate Bush's wonderful song.
That makes me a bit sad that you say that, but hey, it's your opinion and that's fine.
It's just my opinion, man.
I just think it's an incredible song. It's a beautiful song in its own right, but what the Futureheads did with it, the vocals on it are the best thing. Like, just they managed to like embody that sense of like kind of.
It's almost like barbershop, isn't it? It's like harmonising
a slow ballad and gave it some bollocks.
Okay, so on the last episode, Dave said he wanted to meet the Dan that didn't just like everything, and had old opinions on stuff that I didn't like. So that was what I would have said. But I did listen to it again, and it's not as bad as I remember. But I'm not going to defend it as being the best cover of all time. I don't think it's even in the conversation for the top 500.
I think it's probably top 5.
The reason why I picked this track is you're in a band, right? You're in a band, and you.
Yeah, we know you're in a band, Martyn. You don't have to keep going on about it.
Is that the one I'm not in?
Yeah,
no, I'm not in it either, Al. We'll form a side.
The one good thing this has got going for it, Martyn, is it's its own song. It's like they're trying to do something different with it, and I respect that. I don't like it. It's very 2000s indie crap for me, but they've at least tried something new. Fair play.
If you're going to do a cover, do something different and make it your own. And I think that's what they did so well with this track. Is like they took a Kate Bush song and went, well, let's make it sound like us. It sounds like a song that they actually wrote themselves. And if they had written this song themselves and released it, and and it got the sort of airplay that it did, you would go, well, I bet you there are a lot of Futurehead fans that didn't even know that it was a cover.
No, well, I'm going to have to quickly interject here because a very good friend of mine who's a long-time listener and no-time writer-in pulled me on this when I was at university. This cover was doing the rounds, and I was a big Kate Bush fan, but for some reason I just blindsided this track from her. I had either never heard it or completely forgotten it.
Oh, it's one of her biggest
I know, but for some reason...
on the show before.
Yeah, but this is probably with hindsight of me from this particular anecdote. So he'd come in and said, I've been playing this Futureheads track to everybody at the house party and waxing lyrical about how great it was. And he came and went, it's a cover. I said, no, it's not. He went, yeah, it's just a Kate Bush cover. I'm surprised you don't know who it is. You keep banging on about how much you love Kate Bush, but you don't know it's a Kate Bush cover. And embarrassed me in front of maybe 10 to 20 people. And loves having it because he's got almost no musical knowledge. And I've always got him over a barrel, whatever Tom Texas is. But this is his one bit of dynamite he's gotten me from 20 years ago of oh yeah, how he showed me up at this party that I didn't know that the Futureheads was a cover. I just thought I'd give him a shout out as he will be listening to this and thinking, where the fuck's my story?
It doesn't sound like a cover. It does not sound like a cover. It sounds like one of their own songs.
That's because it's such a well-written song.
Do we need a talking stick?
Should we let Tom go?
He seems to be making noises like he needs a poo.
Oh, no, I'm just making noises. So when Dan said it's because it's a well-written song, there are well-written parts to the song. And don't get me wrong.
Yeah, all of the parts.
But the thing is, the Futureheads ignore them and do their own thing with it, which is what. No, I would actually say, Kate Bush in the early to mid-2000s looked like she was going to become a bit of a Bob Dylan in that the covers are better than the originals because Placebo did a great cover of Running Up That Hill as well. And I'm going to really piss Dan off for saying that.
No, I really like the Placebo version.
I fucking hate that cover so much.
I actually quite like Placebo. I've been listening to them a little bit.
Up until the Thingy for the Sun, that album, Battle for the Sun or whatever, is fucking dog shit. Up until that point, Placebo were amazing.
Kind of with Martyn here. Placebo were never good.
Are they even still going?
I don't know. They're a poor man's Gary Newman with a bit of soft cell slammed in.
They're on tour next year.
Placebo's debut album, Without You I'm Nothing, and Black Market Music, and Sleeping with Ghosts, are all amazing.
You know how Tom can just reel off about and we kind of take his opinion a bit more he has credibility because he names all these bands we've never heard of. He's finally lost it now because he's actually mentioned a band we have heard, and we can now categorically say he's wrong because Placebo are fucking shit.
They're not.
That first album, Tom, you can fuck
I'm
it
with
off.
Tom on this.
Right?
I like the first
Yeah,
one.
see, Dan and I are agreeing. They're a good band.
You're using Dan?
I am using Dan.
For rock music? His favourite rock band of all time is Zebrahead.
Hey, no, it used to be.
No, I really, really like this cover. I do. I really like it. I think it's one of the best done covers. Like they've made it their own. They've taken the parts of what was a good song before, and I like what they've done with it better than I like the original. And I say that as a Kate Bush fan. I think Hounds of Love, the Futureheads version, is better than the Kate Bush version. And
I agree.
And I think that it's one of, I would say, in terms of originality, it's up there with one of the best covers. And I saw them do it live in 2010 because they supported Biffy Clyro at Pavilions. And it's fantastic live. It's a great, the way they've done that song makes it one of those songs that is just fucking great fun live. You know how if you go and see Arctic Monkeys, if you saw them years ago and they would do I Bet That You Look Good on the Dance Floor and everybody would go fucking nuts for it, or like when Block Party do like Helicopter or something like that and everything goes nuts. It's got that feel to it. It's brilliant. They ended the set with it and it was fantastic.
I had no idea it was a cover. I'm basically I had a Dave moment today when I was on YouTube doing research, and at first I listened to the original and I very much disliked it. For me it was a song that just went nowhere, and it was just boring. But then when I put this on, I was like, "What's this song?" Then put it on, I was like, "Oh, I know this song," and I'm kind of with the Dans a little bit, as in like. I don't think I hate it, but I think it was just completely overplayed to the point where I don't like it. But in listening back to it now, 10 years down the line, it's like, okay, it is all right. It's not bad. But yeah, I mean, it is better than the original. It's just hands down better than the original.
Just to add an editorial comment here, but the plural of Dan is Den, not Dans.
The Dens.
The Dens.
No, just Den. The Den.
Man is men. Dan is Den.
I'm never going to say that.
I've been trying to get that going for years, so I thought I'd add it to the podcast, see if I can get it going. It's not going to work, is it? Dan, your favourite cover of all time is by a band that we've both seen live. I went with you. It's Goldfinger. They did a cover of German band Nena, and what was originally 99 Luftballons is now 99 Red Balloons. It's like a pop punk. It's got ska elements, but without the horns. It's that kind of genre style of music compared to the new wave synth pop of Nena in the 80s. Why is this your favourite cover of all time?
I don't know if it is my favourite cover of all time.
Well, why
I think
have you selected it then?
I do have the same question.
The same reason I picked Anne Boleyn. You got to pick one.
a good one. I mean, I've got so many. It's just a song that you can lose yourself to and enjoy it. Like, I would find myself skanking the floor off with this one going on.
It's uplifting.
Yeah, it's great. It's just fun. It's enjoyable. I think I like covers that sort of get the original and then, contrary to what Tom said earlier, I like covers that sort of speed them up a little bit, speed the originals up.
Well, Ska definitely does do that.
Yeah, so things like I quite like the Newfound Glory version. Oh, I was about to mention Take. Yeah,
Kind of the reason I've got a bit of a problem with it. The American ska, for a kickoff, because there's a very, very big separation between ska music from the UK and ska music from America.
The best cover of Take On Me is Cap and Jazz, just for the record.
The reason I was saying is I've only got a slight bit of an issue with it. It's an American ska band which you need to make a very big distinction between American ska bands and UK ska bands.
It's ska punk as opposed to ska
another
Frito.
Distinction between Jamaican ska, because they're three very different genres.
It's very much the sublime level of ska.
US ska from that sort of period seemed to have a trend of ripping off UK 80s music, and I'm not really sure what. I think probably from like a Breakfast Club kind of throwback vibe that they did. But yeah, this is one of a long line of them, and I think it's probably one of my least favourite out of their like selections of 80s covers to do. And only because at some point in the future we're also going to have to do a podcast which is selections of records which happened on my birthday, and the month and week I was born, this original Nina's cover is the song that was number one in the charts at the time, so I'm going to have to wax lyrical about this in the future, and I don't hold this cover up to be more than the original.
I like the original, don't get me wrong. The original is more soothing, but I just like the more upbeat version. I was going to say it's like the Real Big Fish track that Dan was saying. I also like Newfound Glory's jazzed up version of Sixpence None the Richer, Kiss Me. It's a good one for you to look out for. There's just so many of these, like you say, ska punk, pop punk sort of covers of either 80s, 90s sorts of regular pop songs that I went down a real rabbit hole of them.
The problem is if you carry on chasing this string through the woods, you are eventually going to come to Pop Goes Punk albums, which there are some classics from those, but there's a whole string of like trite covers which have kind of plagued shittier rock clubs for years, and when they get put on in clubs that I've gone to, it kind of makes me roll my eyes a bit and go, oh, for God's sake, again.
For me, like, I absolutely love the original, but like I love the cover as well. I've actually seen them play this cover live, and yeah, it went down pretty well. I've talked about my brother a lot of this, but my brother's biggest band ever for like 10 years was Goldfinger. So I've heard it. Like, I would honestly say, growing up, I heard this version a lot more than the original.
Definitely.
So like for me personally, this is the original because I heard it just so many more times. So like, I think I heard this one before the original. That's how many times I've heard this one. So like, I can't really judge fairly, but as far as the cover goes, I think it's great. They rocked it up a bit, and it works really well. I really appreciate the fact that he did the German bits. You know, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the best bit, when you get the juxtaposition between the happy sounding English lyrics and then the really harsh sounding German vocal.
Just like we were talking about with the German for butterfly being Schmetterling.
Schmetterling.
And like you've got ambulance, l'ambulance, l'ambulanzi, and Krankenwagen.
Yes, it certainly prevails to the Rammstein fan.
This is very much in the same vein as Mrs. Robinson by the Lemonheads. That cover was pivotal in starting punk covers of pop songs, and this is enjoyable. I really like it. I don't think it's the best in this style, but I'm never going to skip it. It's a good fun song. I like the original. So yeah, should we move on to the next song? My choice to round off our best studio covers is the obvious choice. Probably people shouting at their phone or whatever you're listening on. Someone's got to mention the Jimi Hendrix Experience and their cover of All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan. So I've gone for it. It may be the obvious choice, but I think it's so iconic, and it transcends the idea of making a cover version your own song, to the point where I don't think there's a better example of it in the history of pop music. I think what Jimi Hendrix did on the guitar to All Along the Watchtower, which is a well written song. Bob Dylan was certainly a great lyricist. It creates all the mystery surrounding what it's actually about, and the figures and the places and the people he mentions in the song. But it's really brought to life by Jimi Hendrix on the guitar. The harmonica bits make it on the original make it sound like a demo. It's just perfect in every way.
I have nothing to add because it's brilliant. It's just like what I was going to say. It's a classic. It's an obvious choice. It's good.
I almost chose this, obviously, because being a guitar player and being a big Hendrix fan, I almost chose it, but thought it was probably too obvious and someone else was going to choose it. But it's the greatest cover version of all time. It really is, in the fact that nobody really knows the original. Everybody, have you heard that song? They'll go, "Oh yeah, Hendrix, man." People believe that it's Hendrix's song.
I didn't realize it was a Dylan song until about 2 years ago, and for me, that's why I didn't choose this. It's just because, well, it's always the best cover ever, because everyone just thinks of the Hendrix version, like you say.
They're only 12 months apart as well, so that makes a lot of difference, because the original had only been out 12 months, so it didn't get a chance to become a renowned classic. It just...
To be fair, with Dylan's version was never going to become a renowned classic, was it? Let's face it.
The lyrics are very good, though. It is an exceptionally well-written song.
The lyrics are really good, but Dylan's vocal line in it is surprisingly monotone. So Bob Dylan normally seems to cover up his lack of singing ability, by his own admission, by writing an interesting melody. And all along the Watchtower, the reason it was never going to be big for a Dylan song is that although the lyrics are really good, the melody that he wrote is really monotone for a Dylan song. And the thing is, Jimi Hendrix, great guitar player, is always really underrated as a vocalist.
Yes.
And it's his vocals, it's his soulful vocals that
so
carry
much
this.
better, yeah.
And an interesting thing about Jimi Hendrix was he never liked his own vocals. He hated being a vocalist. Really self-conscious. He never thought he was good enough as a vocalist.
There's some great footage on YouTube if you get a chance of him recording some colour footage of him playing acoustic guitar. And he makes like one tiny fuck up on some 12-string acoustic when they're recording him. And he's so sheepish. He's kind of like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Is it okay to go from the top? You re-record me?" It's just like so fragile. It's like, yeah, mate, it doesn't really matter. You're a fucking god. Let's just go again.
Hendrix was the most humble genius, like, in music history. He just literally was like, he never thought he was good enough. But he was obviously, it's Jimi Hendrix, man. Like, but he always thought he was never good enough.
To be that good, you have to think you're shit. If you just won't get better, there's no way. Like,
he was always aiming for something. And to think that man had a career that spanned 4 years, a few years, like in the Jimi Hendrix experience and like Jimi Hendrix as we know him. It's like 3 albums.
The three studio albums.
And skipping from here, there, and everywhere as well. He's in like America. He's in England. He's in fucking all over.
Hendrix was a session player for a long time. Like Jimmy Page.
Well, we will be discussing Hendrix a bit later on as well, I think. So we won't. We'll save some of the Hendrix conversation for a bit later on. But I think this is the cover. If somebody pointed a gun at my head and said, "What's named the greatest cover of all time?" I think I would be hard pressed to not say this.
Totally agree with you. Absolutely, it's the best cover of all time.
I would probably agree, but you've got to say that Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah has got to be up there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to pick that actually. I kind of wish I did because I thought someone else would.
It was mentioned in the Facebook comments, which I'll get to a bit later, but
it's a bit obvious.
I think this
is just overplayed. I think.
Obvious one. Well, I just think in terms of what ground they're breaking as a studio recording, Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah is an exceptional record, and it's really haunting to listen to. But it's just not as it's quite long, and you really have to be in the zone to listen to it. It's quite an introspective song. You wouldn't just put it on out and about, but you hear all along the Watchtower, and you can either put it to Vietnam music, and it works as the helicopters arrive in Vietnam. It's that music. It's used in With Nail and Eye for a wrecking ball destroying like some tower block in London. It's so adapted, and it's taken so much from the original to become this behemoth of pop culture, and I just don't think there's anything better.
I should also point out, I'm not saying that Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley is a better cover than All Along the Watchtower. I'd say if you're purely ranking on a track on how much better than the original it is for best cover,
Limp Bizkit Faith.
no.
Carrying on.
This may be an ideal time, but I do have some special honourable mentions that I had. So on my list, on my short list, I've got The Temptations. Papa Was a Rolling Stone, which was originally recorded a few months earlier by The Undisputed Truth, but the cover is so much better. Stevie Wonder's We Can Work It Out, which I think is better than the Beatles version.
I will agree with you on
The
that.
Pet Shop Boys version of Always On My Mind, which is better than the Graham McRae version, Elvis version, and the Willie Nelson version.
Yeah, agreed.
Donny Hathaway's version of A Song for You by Leon Russell is absolutely immaculate. One that I really wanted to mention, and it was featured on Todd in the Shadows recently, and I think they discussed it on even on chart music as well, is the Carpenters' version of Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft, which was originally by a power pop band called Klaatu. It's so weird, but it's so out of their normal style of music that it's fascinating, and it's got an amazing guitar solo in it. So fucking love that one.
My parents used to sing the Carpenters version to me when they were like in the bath when I was a kid. They used to play that to us.
Glad you added when you're a
And
kid.
Martyn, I know you're a fan of this one, but we've also got Isaac Hayes, his version of Walk On By. Now I love the Dionne Warwick version, but yeah, the Isaac Hayes version. D-Train did a very good version, but Isaac Hayes is a masterpiece.
I love Snoop Dogg's version.
Yeah. Aretha Franklin's version of What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers. This Mortal Coil.
Doobie Brothers, hang on, can we hold a minute? Because there was an undeniable banger there which got completely ignored.
Oh, What a Fool Believes is an undeniable banger in all forms. And the Aretha Franklin
Right, so if
version,
I'd taken that and not taken it to the streets, it might have been a different story.
Well, I agree that that's an undeniable banger.
Dan, can we also say that this Mortal Coil version of Song for the Siren?
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to mention that. The Brian Ferry version's very good as well.
You have to bear with us while we just work out previous grudges.
I just want to start a fight a minute. Smooth Criminal, Alien Ant Farm version's better.
Yeah, I'm with Dan Bellin on this.
Well, 100% not.
You can also say as well, like Hurt by Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that I'm the one who's going to say this. And I really don't like the fact that I'm the one who's going to bring this up, and I cannot believe that Dan has not mentioned it, but we can't do a covers episode without mentioning I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston.
I prefer the Dolly Parton version.
Oh no, don't be that guy. Speaking of somebody who likes Dolly Parton and doesn't like Whitney Houston, even I can say the Whitney Houston version is better. It's absolutely better, and there's no
I love
argument
Whitney
about
Houston,
it.
but that's not in my top 20 of her songs.
Also, on that same vein, you might as well choose White Stripes. I don't know what to do with myself.
Oh yeah. There's also the Roxy Music cover of Jealous Guy, which by John Lennon, which is absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
Or I'm In With the In Crowd is also another banger.
Yeah, and a personal favourite of mine is Eddie Hazel's version of California Dreamin' by the Mamas and the Papas, which is staggering. Listen to it. So those were some special mentions. Has anyone else got any?
So I'm going to mention two, and they're both going to be controversial, but I'm going to do it anyway. The first one, because none of you will have heard it, but you should all listen to it. I love Biffy Clyro's cover of Buddy Holly by Weezer. It's not better than Buddy Holly by Weezer. I'm not saying it's better, but in terms of covers that do something really interesting with the original, it does that more so than most. So it's definitely more interesting. And the other one I'm going to mention, which I love and probably prefer it to the original, but nobody else does, and I don't blame them, is A Perfect Circle's cover of Imagine by John Lennon. I absolutely love it. No, you should listen to it. And I love it because it turns it all into a minor key, and it's got Maynard James Keenan from Tool singing on it. They actually did a whole covers album. Their covers out. A Perfect Circle's covers album is shite predominantly, but their cover of Imagine is very good. And I really enjoyed it. I will be the only person who likes it more than the John Lennon version. So I'm just going to say I know that anybody who, if comments are turned on for this, is going to tell me I'm wrong. I know. It's fine.
And I like to...
Can we also shout out Gulch's cover of Sin in My Heart?
You and I can, but no one...
Way better original. So close.
I Fought the Law by The Clash.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I guess another one that we've got to mention, because like Amy Winehouse and Mark Ronson.
Valerie.
It is so much better than the
Valerie's
original.
great.
I don't like the Zootons version.
I do like the Zootons version.
I do
but
like the
eventually-
Zootons version. I do like Don't Ever Think Too Much, which is the subsequent single, which is incredible as well.
So next up, we are going to be talking about our favourite live covers. Those are some of the best covers we think in the studio, but how about in a live environment? We did our festivals episode last year where we ran down some of our favourite live bands, but what about individual performances? So we've each nominated another one for this category. I'm going to start with Al, simply because I actually really want to talk about this. Al's nominated a cover of a song by Diamond Head called Am I Evil from 1980. It was a 2010 live performance by the Big Four, which is actually Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer and Anthrax combined to perform the song. And James Hetfield says it best. It's a big moment for metal, and it really is. I really was not aware that this had happened, and it was pretty fucking awesome.
That's mainly the reason I picked it. I actually really like the song as well. The original's
the
pretty
original
class,
thing.
and I really like the cover. Like, stick James Hetfield's vocals on most things, I'll probably enjoy it. But the main reason I picked it is, like you said, like it's something that will never happen again.
No.
It was a big moment. I think it was the first time they actually played on stage with Dave Mustaine since they kicked him out.
Yeah.
So that's also a big deal, and that's mainly why I picked it. It's purely for like how big a moment that was in metal history, I guess. If I wasn't going with like metal history and all that stuff, I would probably pick Pantera Domination. That was a good one.
It's a better pick.
But yeah, that's all you can really say. It is a great song. I don't care who you are. It's everyone can enjoy the chorus of "Am I evil? Yes, I am." And like it's literally every band member from all the bands. Even like they've got Lars on drums, but they've got like all of the drummers on their own snare drums in the background. They've got all the bassists going. They've got all of them doing the backing vocals. I mean, it's one of those things where if you were there live, it would have been a where were you moment sort of thing. Cause
it's a moment in rock
it's just
history.
class.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the main reason I picked it.
I totally got that. That's the vibe. When I watched the video on YouTube, I was like, wow, that was kind of a big moment for rock. And from a technical perspective, the performance isn't really that special.
No, it doesn't really matter though.
Kirk Hammett does a decent job on the lead solo, but it's nothing remarkable. But it's just the sense of awe on the stage. All the people that you're looking at, like you say, Dave Mustaine back with Metallica is a big moment. And you really get that vibe. And the performance is epic. It's not bad.
No, I definitely picked it more for the grand gesture, as it were, like rather than.
I also didn't find that it was fine. It was all right. It was decent. But this YouTube comment summed it up for me. It was said, if Dave Mustaine, James Hetfield, and Lars Ulrich can all be on stage together, it proves there's still hope for peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
There is hope.
So true. I mean, I've seen 3 of the 4 bands on stage there. I've seen live. Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax. I've seen all of them live.
Oh, Megadeth are the best one.
I don't. I'm not sure they are.
I've seen Megadeth, Metallica.
I didn't like any of them live. And
why? Why didn't you like them live? Metallica are great live.
They're good, but remember that I saw Metallica round about the same time that I saw like Sigur Rós and Muse at Wembley. And they're not as good as either of those 2 bands live.
James going to explode there.
Like, don't get me wrong. I actually like a lot of Metallica stuff. I actually think Am I Evil is probably there with their top 5 worst songs.
Well, it's not a song they've ever recorded, I don't think.
It's on Garage Inc.
Oh, is it? I just thought it was a song they played live a lot.
I don't like it. It's if we're going for covers Metallica have done, Whiskey in the Jar is better than
That was on my list, actually. I was
Hands
tempted.
down.
The Thin Lizzy version is the best
I
version.
will not disagree with that either. I think the Thin Lizzy version is better, but in terms of covers Metallica have done, their
The
version.
Thin Lizzy are a better band, if we're going to go one step further.
Nah.
If I had been there in the moment, I'd probably really enjoyed it, but this wouldn't be the song from that gig that I enjoyed, if that makes sense. Like, I just don't like the song. I think it's a crap song played by great musicians.
Disagree.
Martyn, you're quiet on this one. The Big Four, Am I Evil?
Absolutely fucking banging. Like,
Yeah.
like, come on, like Anthrax and Megadeth are my favourites of the Big Four, and just seeing like all of those absolute 100% heroes just fucking loving doing what they do. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what we're missing here. Is like, they're not trying to like make a song better. They're just enjoying playing a song that's influenced all of those
You're
bands.
misconstruing a good cover and a good performance with basically wrestling. You want to have a Royal Rumble on stage of like heroes.
Yeah, but if there was if you had a cover that, I don't know, like Prince, Michael Jackson, and Stevie Wonder were on stage, you
might
might.
be shit because there's too many It's like Man United right now. There's too many fuckers up front and no fuckers midfield.
It's a We Are the World situation where you get too many egos in one room, and the result is not the sum of its parts.
Kind of get that, but like, no, you had a bunch of musicians on stage.
Oh no, I'm very much for the
doing their
song.
thing.
I love
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
But it's
they
not
were
as good
enjoying
as it could have been.
They weren't trying to change the world, and they weren't trying to like go, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever. But
No, but they were
at that moment, they were
implicit-
loving
no,
it.
but they were quite implicit in the thought that they knew a bunch of metal kids were going to be touching themselves in the audience and how much of a wanky moment it was. Which is,
I would have been one of them.
yeah, well, I wouldn't.
I like it as well because it's more in the spirit of a cover. It's rather than recording a cover, like Tom said earlier. Like I'm not a big fan of covers
me
in
neither.
general because I think, stop playing someone else's song, play your own fucking song. I liked how they did it. It was obviously at the end of like a tour or something, and it was obviously like end of the set. Like fuck it, we'll get this. It was just a bit of a laugh, but like just for the like.
It was in Bulgaria.
I've just looked, and it's actually about 2/3 of the way through Metallica's set as part of the Big Four.
Even the title Big Four is like stroke your knob.
Yeah,
It's
really
unbelievable.
wanky.
Oh yeah, but thrash metal bands are all up themselves.
It is what it is. It's true.
I think if you've got those four bands together, I want to see James Hetfield fronting Raining Blood. I don't want to see them do Am I Evil? It's just.
Yeah, but if you've got all four bands, you're not going to do it. You're not going to get all four bands to play one of their
Well,
songs.
they did. They
It's
all
gonna have
played
to
a
be someone else's
Metallica
songs.
song.
Don't smash all
Diamond
four
Heads
bands
were a
together.
massive influence on all of those bands.
Yeah,
And like, actually, yes, I do want to see them pay tribute to a band that they were all really, really massively influenced by.
I don't want to see them all on the same stage. That's what I'm saying. I like tuna. I like peanut butter. I like custard. I like fish. I don't want all four smashed in some horrific trifle right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, okay, I'm with.
I liked it.
If it taught me one thing, there's only one member of that metal community that has a family Netflix account, and that is James Hetfield, because the rest of them are clinging to the long hair, and James Hetfield's just there as a Prosecco dad. He's definitely the
that's
most
my role.
likely frontman in thrash metal to come on this podcast. So James Hetfield, if you're listening, come on down.
Anthrax were the best thrash band of all time.
Megadeth for me.
Slayer.
I don't know. I like Anthrax, but I'm not sure they're my favourite. If we're on metal, there's one cover I almost picked but didn't. Was Sepultura's Orgasmatron, the Motorhead cover.
Yes,
that was a
that's
really good one, and they play it live, and I love it. I was tempted to pick that one, but I didn't think
you should have.
I didn't think enough people would have known the original, to be honest.
Yeah, we would have. I would have agreed with you on that. I'm not agreeing with you on this, but I would have agreed with you on that. Yeah.
It's heavy as fuck, man, and that's what we want. We want a bunch of metalheads going for it. That's what we want, and that's what happened.
Continuing on the heavy as fuck vibe, Martyn, your favourite live cover of all time is Rocking in the Free World, which was originally from the 1989 Neil Young album Freedom. And performing this at the 1993 MTV Music Awards is Pearl Jam, and they are joined on stage by Neil Young on co-lead vocals. It's not much different to the original. Well, there's two versions on the album. One's acoustic. This is the second version, the studio version that they base it on. It's not too different. It's just everything turned up to 11. Some really nice harmonies from Eddie Vedder. Some dueling guitar work from Neil Young and Mike McCready. And it's great. I love it. Martyn, tell us more.
You just basically said all I needed to say about it.
Yay! Did I hit the nail on the head?
You hit the nail on the head.
You could literally copy and paste on a Martyn's Wankfest about Eddie Vedder from any other podcast and then just paste it here and it'll be exactly the same.
They've performed this a few times because I watched the 2011 version they did in Toronto, and it was 12 minutes long. And fuck me, I don't want to listen to Rocking in the Free World extended to 12 minutes long. Like, I'm the guy who listened to the album Freedom and likes the acoustic version better than the studio version. So a straight cover of the studio version going on for ages is just fucking torture.
The reason why I chose it was because it changed my life and it made me want to play guitar. It's because
I thought that was Izzy Stradlin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Busted!
Depends which day you ask him.
I'd also like to interject at this point and say my favourite artist of all time, Rick James, was in a band with Neil Young, which is hardly reported upon.
Yeah, the
Minor
Birds, yeah.
I had no idea, really.
Yeah, so when Rick was dodging subscription for the Vietnam War, he bounced to Canada and just randomly met up with Neil Young in a bar. And there's no music that exists from their band, but apparently it was particularly good, and there's no evidence of this, but it's just an odd fact of like a funk legend and a folk legend came together for this one weird band that nothing exists of. It's just this kind of like good rock and roll myth.
I'd love to hear that.
Also, the other point I was going to make with this cover is that it's Neil Young's song and Neil Young's performing it live with Pearl Jam, and we already said in the break, and it was recorded, so it might make the cut, if Venart performs Oceanside tracks live, it's not a cover.
You could have nominated it and we would have discussed that at length, but that's what we're doing now.
So I'm gonna say now, is Neil Young performing his own track with Pearl Jam still a cover? And you will agree.
Yeah, well, that's fine because it's not shit.
It's still a cover because it's Pearl Jam and Pearl
Jam and Magic.
Neil Young gets a slide. Van Art don't get a slide. That's the difference.
Yeah, Neil Young gets a slide. I don't really like that kind of music, but he's one of the best. He's excellent, from what I've heard.
This song changed my life. It literally did change my entire life. I was a sad, lonely teenage boy sat in my room, like alone, like not really knowing what was going on. But
Ray Warning was going on.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching the MTV Awards and that came on. It was like Pearl Jam, and it was like, who the fuck are these guys? I didn't even really know Pearl Jam then, and Eddie Vedder goes, "You'll know who this is," and brings Neil Young on, and they did "Rocking in the Free World," and I was like, this is the best thing I've heard in my entire life. It made me pick up the guitar. So the fact that the world gets to hear my beautiful guitar playing is down to the fact that this song exists. I think it's amazing. I think it's incredible. I think you've got this young band who are really new to the music scene. I mean, back then you've got to remember Pearl Jam were genuinely a new band. They were new, and they worshipped Neil Young, and they had their hero come on stage with them and play with them. And I'm thinking, imagine just making it as a musician.
If you want someone who's
your hero, your absolute hero in the world, as on stage with you and playing one of his songs, you'd just be fucking loving life. You'd be like, I've made it. And this is a band that was still new, so they made it then.
They weren't that new though, were they? Their 10 came out in 91 and this is 93, so they weren't that new.
Versus came out in '93.
Yeah.
When they played that MTV Awards, they were still a new band. 10 had just come out, yeah, maybe, but like
10 had come out
they
2
didn't.
years prior.
Yeah, but they didn't know they were going to be so big as they were. And Eddie Vedder, his absolute deference, his absolute kind of like, oh my God, my hero is right here with me right now.
It's tasteful and respectful, and I do like that.
You know, Neil's cool. It's the epitome of cool. He's just like the ultimate cool hippie guy. You know, he wrote "Old Man, Take a Look at My Life" after he bought a ranch in the middle of nowhere and inherited off some old boy. You know,
you mentioned one of the best songs ever, "Old Man" by Neil Young. What a great song!
Yeah, I used to cover that at open mic night. I could not do it justice.
Well, that won't be nominated.
Burn.
Al, I know that you're particularly a big fan of Pearl Jam, so you want to offer a differing opinion?
I don't dislike them as much as I like to go on. Apart, like, it is at least 50% winding up Martyn, because, well, you know, if you think a band's all right, but someone is absolutely beside themselves and love them, you can't help but like, you know, you can't help but like, come on, mate, they're not that good.
But luckily, this is brainless and broccoli enough for you to be well on board. Keep on rocking away. I've got no brain and I can give me.
I'm not sure what just happened. I think Dave might have had a stroke.
Face.
It is one of the most brainless Neil Young songs.
Yes. Oh, just shut up, Tom.
Dave, you don't get to laugh. You just agreed with me.
Yeah, I know, but you took up the shitty wicket I left behind.
Well, speaking of people that
shitty wickets
sometimes like a band, we're not continuing with shitty wickets. So if everybody could wipe. Speaking of people that like bands a little bit too much, and so therefore you like to wind them up by pretending you don't like a song. My favourite
Whittle's suggestion.
live cover of all time is from 1988. Well, actually, I can give you the specific date. It was so it was
I get my drink in my
recorded
hand.
at the Paard van Troje in The Hague, the Netherlands, on August the 19th, 1988, from a Love Sexy tour after show. It's Prince's wonderful cover of Just My Imagination Running Away With Me by The Temptations, which starts off, I think, fairly subtly, and then blows you away with a 6-minute guitar solo that, for me, is the greatest guitar solo of all time. And
I just like to quickly get in and out before the belating happens. I love it. I think it's a really great version. I think it's a little bit indulgent.
A little bit.
But apart...
it's an
Hang on,
after
let
show,
me
you
finish.
have.
Jesus Christ. I understand that it's an encore, and I understand that it's a final show. I understand that it's a long rendition of a song that he's done probably off the cuff and had no rehearsal of which. And, you know, he's a great master, and the solo is incredible. And I'd just like to finish there. Thank you very much. My name's David McGlinchey.
Thanks, Dave.
It's probably one of the worst Temptation songs that for the first 4 minutes of the 8 minutes cover was boring as fuck, then got interesting for about a minute, and then he dragged it on for another 4 when it didn't need to.
I mean,
Says the man that listens to songs that last.
He's got him. He's got him.
But the songs that I listen to that last 20 minutes aren't one guitar solo.
It was a brilliant guitar solo. Fuck me, man.
Yeah,
It's
but
some
I don't like any guitar solo.
It's some of the best guitar work I've ever heard in my life. It was beautiful.
Yeah, but it's still
Every
just
note was gorgeous.
masturbation.
Yeah,
Like,
that's your
guitar
intent.
solo.
We're on a podcast talking about the best live covers. They're going to be a little bit in the masturbatory range.
No,
Like, to be honest, I like a good guitar solo, but
this wasn't a
and
good guitar
I appreciate
solo.
Prince's, and I appreciate Prince is a very good guitarist, but I'm kind of with Tom where, like, the first half of it, I was like, it's not good. Followed by, oh wow, he's really going for it. 3 minutes later, oh Jesus!
That is exactly how this
It's
song
also
went.
not designed to be listened to while eating crisps in a chair.
No, if you were there seeing it, yeah, you'd have been like, if you were there with all the Prince heads or whatever they call themselves.
The Princeys.
Is there a name for the Prince fans?
The principals.
Like all the purple army there.
It is.
I like it.
You know, they're all there loving it. I get it, and I can see as a Prince fan why you love it, and it's a good guitar solo.
Sandwiched with it's just there's 5 minutes of nothing. There's a good guitar solo. There's a few more minutes of nothing with a tiny bit of lyrics come in at the back end. Like, you are a massive Prince fan. Prince covered Creep. That should have been your choice, surely.
No one should cover Creep.
No, it's not as good as the original.
No one should play Creep, including the band that made it.
My alternate choice for this would have been Creep by Prince,
and I would have approved of that, but I do not approve of this because it.
I just think this is better. I think it's a different level. This is one of my favourite live performances of all time. I listen to it very regularly, and it's just part of a special set of Prince songs for me that I will eternally adore. And I think it just takes me to a different place when I listen to it, and I really feel that there was something burning within him while he was playing that song, and it always fascinates me as to what mood he was in, because he sounds so delicate, but he's so ferocious with the guitar. There was something happening in his life, and it just fascinates me.
I would go as far to say this is borderline not even a cover. That's how self-indulgent and just how off he goes on one.
Doesn't sound much like the original Temptations track, because it's actually based on the 1978 Some Girls album version of the song by the Rolling Stones. So Prince grew up on the Rolling Stones. He was a big Stones fan. He would have been familiar with that version of the song as opposed to the Temptations, although he was a soul legend as well, so he certainly would have known that. But I think he went more with the kind of blues rock stylings of the Rolling Stones as opposed to the R&B stylings of the Temptations. That's why it sounds so different.
The Temptations track is fucking awful.
I love that song.
I'm not a fan.
I listened to it to hear where Prince got it from, and I was just like I don't dislike a lot of Temptation stuff, but this track, it sounds like it sounds like a Bread B-side.
I like Bread. Make It With You is one of my favourites.
I love Bread.
I fucking hate Bread as well. It's like shit early 70s soft rock.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. We get like Badfinger and...
It's the sort of music that only exists to get played in elevators in offices.
Or on yachts. Come on, our favourite genre.
Not mine. He's covering a shit song. So to be fair, he doesn't have great source material to work
Dave,
for.
can you explain what is yacht rock?
Yeah, I can very quickly. One word. Bread. Just listen to some Bread and imagine you got a yacht. You're cool.
So this is something that is so familiar to me, and my obvious choice. Sounds like we're a little bit divided on it, but from what I gather, the majority of you are on board.
To watch it as a live experience, it would have been good. But to watch it on a YouTube video now, it's not quite.
What I think may also be a factor is that in a lot of the songs that we're discussing, there is video footage, whereas there's no video footage of this song. It is just listening to it as a song with usually with a still image on YouTube. I've got it MP3 file, but yeah, and that does have a big impact on whether or not you can stand to watch an 8-minute solo, because Prince's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" is almost as long, and that's a really indulgent solo, but loads of people love that. That was almost going to be
good, whereas this isn't.
I'm surprised you didn't choose that, Dan, actually, because that is a fucking immense cover.
Well, I think it's really good, but I think it's one of those where the Prince solo is the standout element of it, and I think with spoiling everything, I'll probably be discussing that song when we discuss our favourite solos in a future episode.
Dan, where did that Telecaster go?
Well, I've seen it since, so it's at Paisley Park. We'll move on to another choice. Dan, your favourite live cover of all time, originally by The Who in 1965. It's My Generation, and covering it are, of course, Green Day.
Of course, I'm sticking to my theme here. I'm going to be honest. Again, I don't have a favourite cover. I picked this song as it's just an example of what Green Day do. Green Day love music. Green Day love musicians. Green Day have massive respect for lots of other artists. So they've done loads of covers over the years. They've got their own side project band, the Cover-Ups, who just do nothing but covers.
I'll give you some props on that. They're a massive fan of one of my favourite bands, which are in a couple of films, which they're into, which is...
Oh, no. Your favourite band, eh?
Off the top of my head, I forgot. My favourite band.
We'll just get the Fact Checker 3000 out of the cupboard.
Graham Parker and the Rumour.
There we go. I do it all the time, though. It's going blank.
Shit. I was filling and I thought, shit, I haven't gotten that.
I could tell halfway through that sentence you forgot.
Would you like to take it from the top, David?
Yeah, so we'd like to go again.
Through the power of editing.
So, Dan, very interesting point there. I'd like to follow up on it. Green Day, one of the great bands that I also respect. They've got a lot of respect for a band I love called Graham Parker and the Rumour. Thank you very much. Let's move on.
I mean, if you go online, you just find out the number of artists they've covered. It's ridiculous. They routinely cover Queen, The Who, The Ramones. They do really quite a good version of Blitzkrieg Bop, which I like a lot. I wanted to just respect how good they are.
And if you'd gone for that, I would have mentioned it.
Hold on, are you trying to tell me you don't like Blitzkrieg Bop?
Thomas, that's naughty.
I do like Blitzkrieg Bop, and I like the Green Day version of that.
Okay, cool.
I just don't like the Green Day version of My Generation.
Do you like the studio version from Kaplunk?
No, because if you're going to do a straight cover of a classic song, play the fucking bass solo.
Fair.
Yeah, that's true.
And they don't do it.
But John Entwistle's bass solo in the original is very iconic, and it's very much. Do you do the same thing, or do you do something different, or do you just
not hard to play. It's not hard to play, and on the Kaplunk version, they sort of vaguely go for it and fuck it up, and it's not a hard bass part to play. I used to play that bass solo in the outro on our punk in the punk band that Al and I were in a long time ago, and I used to use the My Generation bass solo transposed into the key that we were playing in for the band in this weird outro song we did.
Well, on a plus side, but I do like the fact they've still kept the stutter in, and there was an interesting story about this stutter. Apparently, he does have a stutter, the lead singer from
Roger Daltrey.
Roger
Daltrey, yeah.
But he used to play it down, so he deliberately... He had a stutter when he was talking, but didn't have a stutter when he was singing, much like Gareth Gates. If you want to take it back to such a ridiculous
Didn't
comparison.
realise he would get a shout out to Double G on the
He's a hell of a guy.
CSP.
But while they're recording that song, the manager came in and said, stutter, please stutter when you're doing it. He said, why do you want me to use my stutter when I'm recording the lyrics here? Well, I don't need to. He said, yeah, it'd be great. It will seem like you're doing amphetamines and it'll get you in with all of the mod crowd. He's like, okay, well, I have a stutter anyway. He's like, yeah, all right, we'll just lean on that. So apparently the reason they left did the stutter in the first place and then subsequently left it in was to appeal to the pill-popping mod crowd. And I like the fact that the Green Day left it in. I don't know if they knew that backstory. But...
I'm going on record. I prefer the Green Day version. Mic drop.
Wow. No, I wouldn't go that far.
Definitely not.
I think it sounds better as a punk song.
Well, it was a punk song.
No, like a punk one, not like old punk, where it's essentially classic. Oh. It's essentially rock, but, early punk. I don't know, I prefer it.
Proto.
Who themselves, I prefer their early stuff, rather than... From Tommy onwards, I think it gets a bit foggy. So I really love that song. I don't think this is better, but it's not a shoddy version. I appreciate it, certainly. Next on the list is Dave. We talked a bit about epic guitar solos a moment ago. This may be the definitive one from Woodstock 1969.
I remember my own selection now.
I thought you were going to say that you remember Woodstock 1969.
Yeah, I was 50 at the time.
It's, of course, Jimi Hendrix with one of the most fantastic and famous guitar solos of all time. His version of the Star Spangled Banner, which is, of course, the American national anthem. So it's a cover of a national anthem. It's more based in tradition than a pop song cover, but it's certainly one of the best covers of all time, I think.
I mean, it's a satirical comment. Basically, Woodstock was happening while everyone was getting conscripted up to the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of student protests at the time, and I'm sure they would have had a lot of that conglomerate in the audience. And it was kind of a piss take, basically, out of the country. So, as a sort of half British, half American citizen, as he kind of flitted between both countries, it was a good criticism stance for him to take. And I think, we've said all we can say about Jimi Hendrix. I mean, he's a guitar genius. There isn't any lyrics to this particular song, but I think just the poise and general forethought and cultural presence to play this song at that particular festival at that time is just, again, tantamount to his genius.
I love what he does in this, in that he takes that melody and then the band kick in and he just deconstructs it completely. I think that's really, it's a really good commentary, and I think it's why.
With no lyrics as well. You can imagine anyone to have such a satirical, poised political comment with only music right now is. I don't even know where you begin to start, but to even have that thought is amazing.
If we're going to go down that route, classical music has been doing that for decades. Look at basically anything written by Shostakovich.
I'm talking the last sort of 50 years.
Yeah, still going. Anything written by Shostakovich was like he was still alive until the late. No, that's Kabalevsky, who lived to the 80s. Shostakovich he died in 1949, which I still think is like 50.
It's modern to you, Tom.
It's modern to me. Speaking as the one person who nominates, who listens to more recent music than everybody else. But no, I love the way he deconstructs the melody of Star Spangled Banner. It's reminiscent of what Russian modern classical music had been doing up until recently, and it demonstrates Hendrix's musical ability. While
Shostakovich was deliberately flying in the face of Stalin on purpose.
Yeah, Shostakovich, Stravinsky, Kabalevsky.
So don't fucking come out with your classical knowledge, mate.
Absolutely. And although interestingly, throwback to a bit that didn't get recorded for the David Stubbs episode, and going off on a tangent about Mayakovsky for a while, who is probably one of the greatest 20th century classical composers, so go and check him out, he's great. But yeah, the way they deconstruct melody, and Hendrix is referencing that, and I really like it. And I like the fact it's not a straight patriotic cover, because it's like Brian May stood on stage playing God Save the Queen. I mean, he's just enough, isn't he? Whereas Hendrix is playing the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, in a psychedelic manner on purpose.
Hold on, did I miss something with that Nazi comment? What?
No.
I'll just qualify that Brian May is not a registered member of the National Socialist Party.
I get all what you're saying, but Star Spangled Banner played on a guitar is just fucking annoying. I don't know what it is.
I really thought the guitar was impressive. The way he was making it sound, okay, this is really basic because I'm not a musician, it was something that I just could barely even comprehend. I was like, what on earth are you doing? It's amazing. It's really impressive. It's insane. But I also thought, Jimmy, you're trying too hard here.
Fucking try hard.
There are some really good... Actually, no, that's a lie. There are some really terrible national anthems. The American national anthem is actually a really quite good song.
Yeah.
And it almost deconstructed it way too much, where I was like, no, I want to get back to the bit that I know. And that's just me as somebody who... It's missing. You're losing it a bit. And
the point is to lose it, though.
I didn't know that was the point. I didn't realise, because I didn't know the historical significance that it was at the time of.
So if he was trying to chase,
yeah,
the point,
and that makes a lot of sense. You explaining that to me, I was like, okay, I sort of get that now.
He's not playing a national anthem halfway through Woodstock to appeal to. The
which
American
actually,
audience.
one of the songs on our next list is very much Murica. This is, I guess, like you're saying, sort of two fingers up to that. I didn't realise that, so I was just listening to it as a piece of music, and I was thinking, it's a bit much. Just chill out a little bit, and it would have been better for me. Controversial.
I mean, like, the Vietnam War was probably a bit much, and they should have chilled out a little bit. That's kind of the point.
I don't disagree with that.
It did just drag on a bit, didn't it?
There were no winners.
For me, it's kind of similar to how we talked about the Big Four thing, where it's a moment in history. And I think that kind of supersedes everything in terms of when I listen to it, I don't deconstruct the song itself. It's not my favourite version of the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. I think my favourite version is the Marvin Gaye version, where he turns it into sexual healing.
I need to hear that.
There's something truly phenomenal about how he pulls it off and still it keeps everybody on board. It's remarkable. But yeah, this is certainly an amazing guitar performance. Martyn, as a guitarist, how do you rate this solo?
I kind of agree with Dan Bellin, actually, like in the sense that, well, it's fucking incredible, but it turns into, from satire, it turns into just a guy wanking off on his guitar, basically.
He princes it, does he?
Yeah, I'm fucking loving this thing, and he's making loads of noise and really enjoying the noise. And like, as a guitar player, that's what we do. We start off with the best intentions of making a statement, end up enjoying the noise that we make.
I think we also need to give comment to people that have rehearsed a cover for multiple times, and it's been carefully choreographed with some other people, and people that just do it off the cuff, like Prince in the club, like Hendrix half battling an acid throwback through middle of Woodstock. I think there's more comment to somebody who does an incredible cover off the cuff than to someone that's actually sat down and discussed.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree
with that. This particular song that we're discussing is basically like, it started off, he had like learned the song, but he went off on an improvisational jam, and like, it's kind of like, well, it ended up going like in a really like kind of self-indulgent thing.
Oh yeah, it's got its jazz elements, of course.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Tom Morello out of Rage Against the Machine, you know, where it's like he wants to make a statement but ends up just wanking off on the guitar and going, look at my noises, listen to this really crazy sound I'm making. And it's like, yeah, that's all very good and that, but like, what statement are you trying to make here? As a guitar player, that's what we do. We like to have the idea that we're gonna like make a difference and we're gonna make a statement, but it just doesn't happen that way. We just end up going, oh, I'm fucking loving this sound and this noise.
I think surely that's the truest example of someone that's tried to make an off-the-cuff statement that's actually resonated there. I can't think of a better example.
No, it is a great example, and to be fair, but who listens to that first, you know, that Hendrix Star Spangled Banner? You turn it off after a couple of minutes, don't you? You kind of go, well, you've made your point. Everything after that is kind of like, oh.
Yeah, no, I've probably done the same. I don't think I'll ever listen to the whole thing.
Play Voodoo Child now, please, James.
We go back to like While My Guitar Gently Weeps by you know, the George Harrison
Tom
thing.
Tom Petty.
The solo by Prince in that is so concise. It's so fucking beautiful in every single way. You don't want it to end, and when it ends, you're like, oh, I want you to keep playing. But with the Star Spangled Banner, you're like kind of like, Hendrix, can you just shut the fuck up?
Yeah, I suppose the message was more poignant than the...
Basically, if the message wasn't there, all the stuff, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, you know, when you just start a band practice and you need to get a guitarist to shut up so you can start practice? That's what it is.
We've been in a band with someone like that before.
It really is. It's like kind of, you know, if you've got a really good idea and you really want to say something on guitar, then you do it and then you shut the fuck up. And I think in this particular example, Hendrix, he didn't really shut up. He kept going, and it was just ended up being noise.
I mean, to clarify, I do like it, but
I do love it. I love it to bits, and it's one of defining moments in my own guitar playing that I listen to it and I go, well, I want to be that fucking amazing at guitar, but I go, well, is it melodic? Is it still saying anything anymore? Like, there comes a point where you have to just go, just put the fucking guitar down, just turn the volume off, you know?
Then again, we are, like Dave said, we are analysing something that which was an off the cuff. I'm just gonna fuck around on my guitar, like, you know. Obviously, it meant a lot.
Also, you've got to remember he was probably on a lot of acid.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, he probably was.
definitely. There's the same gig where Santana described trying to play the gig like wrestling a snake when he was talking about the frets of his guitar.
I wouldn't want to try and play guitar on acid. It would probably sound like when me and Elle jam.
I mean, playing drums after like 4 shandies is hard enough.
Tom's favourite live cover of all time is one that's not available on YouTube or not available, well, anywhere by the sounds of it, other than Tom's own memory.
Damn hipster!
Tom took a different brief and decided to go for a live cover that only he was privy to, in a way that only... well, not only you. Well, maybe. You might have been the only person.
There were a few thousand. It was sold out.
In true Tom fashion, we don't really know, but there is a studio version. So, the song is... the original is Oh Father by Madonna from her 1989 Like a Prayer album, which is probably her best album. It's a critically acclaimed track. It's not one that's really for me, though. If I'm going for a ballad, I wouldn't go for Madonna, similarly how I wouldn't go for Janet Jackson. But that's just me. The band that have covered it are My Vitriol, which were mentioned on our festivals episode last year.
Madonna's best album is Ray of Light, just so you know.
Well, that's up there as well, but I think, like, anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about My Vitriol again.
Yeah.
Something that we mentioned last year. We don't know what this song sounds like, but the studio cover I thought was okay.
Yeah, so the studio version and the live version are quite similar, but they pretty much opened the set with it. So My Vitriol Fine Lines was an album that I absolutely loved when it came out in 2001. But they re-released it in 2002 as Fine Lines Between the Lines, which had all the B-sides on.
Things, yeah.
Yeah, which is, and then in 2017 they decided to do a 15th anniversary gig. It was a 2-night gig, the 19th and the 20th of November, in London at the Coco. And so for my 30th birthday, me and a friend went to watch that, and it was brilliant. They were supported by 100 Reasons Acoustic. They were supposed to be supported by what are they called? I'm doing a Dave.
Let's not make that a thing.
Oh, it's totally a thing already.
A senior moment.
I remembered it quicker than you remembered yours. No, they were supposed to be supported by Hell is for Heroes. 100 Reasons jumped in and did the support, but they basically played 2 sets on consecutive nights where they played like every song that they'd ever recorded plus a load of covers, like 2 hour-and-a-half sets, which for a band who'd only released 1 album is quite impressive, really.
Like, you sum up as long-winded.
Their cover of Smashing Pumpkins' Cherub Rock was brilliant.
Drake.
Yep, almost got away with it.
I haven't got one left. But their cover of Oh Father, the reason why I picked this one is because the original Madonna song is a bit shit.
Yep.
And
it's okay.
And the My Vitriol cover is not shit.
I would agree with you on that point.
Less shit. I don't even know if it's a bit less shit. I think I still prefer the Madonna version.
No,
but...
you're wrong.
I put it on, and by the time I really realised what was going on, the song had finished. And that's a great comment, really, because I'm not a fan of the band. But I looked around and went, oh, I'm in the last 10 seconds now. That went really quickly. I kind of like that.
Their songs are never very long, yeah, it's got a really nice guitar sound. He's a very, very good vocalist. He's a very good vocalist live. Live, they are loud as hell, so like really loud live. So just imagine the studio version, really loud with a little bit more reverb, and you're basically what it was like live, but in the Coco in London, which is an amazing venue.
I love it. Camden Palace. Yeah.
Yeah, Camden Palace. The Coco is a fantastic venue.
Seen some really good nights there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think £5 for a can of Red Stripe is possibly a little bit much. But apart from that...
If you'd gone there in the 90s, then Lemmy McQueen, which was one of the hardest motherfuckers known to man. It was known as the governor in the 90s, used to be the
It was a great venue. It's the only time they played this track live. It's a very good cover that is far better than the original, because the original's shit. And it was good live. There you go. So that's why I picked it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Thomas.
But we can never know for sure, because the performance that you're describing is not available. So don't try and look for it.
No, it isn't.
Look for it. Yeah, song's okay. Actually, the most striking thing about this entry was that "Oh Father" was released as a single by Madonna. Now, I don't really remember the song much at all.
I'd never heard it.
It's her forgotten song.
It is a forgotten song.
I looked it up and I was like, I have heard it before because I've listened to the album, but it's just not very remarkable and not very memorable. And I looked it up and it gets quite a lot of critical acclaim.
That's the thing. I can remember the My Vitriol version, but he even changes bits of the vocal melody and the rhythms and all sorts are completely different to the Madonna version. And I remember the My Vitriol version, and I listened to the Madonna version afterwards. I hadn't heard it before, and I was just like, the Madonna version is nowhere near as good.
So now you've heard Tom's version of My Vitriol. It's time for our Vitriol, as we pick the worst covers of all time. Now, how's that for a segue?
Pretty good.
Thanks. Thought of it myself. I've forgotten where I'm going with it, though. So
I've had a senior moment.
Yeah,
on a Dave.
I'm doing a Dave. So these are our worst covers of all time, and we know that Martyn's a little bit pushed for time this evening, so we're going to be starting with his cover, which is it's a famous live performance from a few years after the original. The original is a smash hit, a pop song. You'll all know it. You don't have to watch it on YouTube now, but you might want to watch the video. No particular reason. It's Britney Spears' Baby One More Time. And the cover, the offending cover, is Travis. Martyn.
Okay, so this is the reason I hate this cover so much, is because it kicks off the whole John Lewis advert, let's be an indie band doing a pop song cover trope.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to this day. Put on the TV and you'll see the Lloyd's advert, and it's doing the whispery voice woman singing, but with a piano thing.
This year it is Together in Electric Dreams.
Oh my god!
Really, really sad because I love that song.
And Lordy fucking Royals.
This song started it.
See, I completely disagree. This song started something, but it didn't start that.
It absolutely did.
No. It is
the whole thing. It's like, oh, we're an indie band and we're going to do a pop song and by Britney, and it's like, oh, how cool is this? And it's like, no, it's not cool.
No, but it's
horrible.
But the people doing the John Lewis adverts are not indie bands doing stripped down acoustic covers of pop songs, because
not anymore, because they can't afford the royalties.
What Travis did then is they started that trend. They started it. It was the very first time that we all heard go, oh, let's listen to this indie band doing a version of a pop song, and it's an electro pop song, which was brilliant in its own right, and it doesn't need covering at all because it's just great in its own terms. But let's just do it in a different way, a breathy, sullen voice way, with acoustic guitars and stuff. It was the song that started that whole trend, and now we are having to endure every fucking Christmas advert,
like the Ellie Goulding Your Song cover. That's what you're thinking of.
I hate the Ellie Goulding Your Song cover, but I don't hate this
thing.
song.
It's such a forced emotion.
When you actually listen to this cover, you can hear them giggling to themselves when they're doing it.
That's not the point.
They're clearly enjoying it.
They're laughing at you.
I don't hate a song for its imitations. I like this cover in the same way that I enjoyed Biffy Clyro's live covers of Umbrella by Rihanna. You know, it's an acoustic, stripped down cover of a pop song done in a way that the pop song didn't do it.
Me and you could go, let's choose an 80s electro song and let's do a stripped down cover of it, and we could do it in an instant. It's too easy, and it's forced emotion.
To link between what you're saying, the smile on Fran Healy's face when he's performing it, I think it's just, there's this smugness about it. And what I think is, and it links it to these kind of armchair Prosecco mum cover versions that you see on John Lewis adverts. It's the lack of respect for the song. They take what is considered to be a bit of throwaway pop. I'm just saying that in air quotes, throwaway pop, and they say, oh, let's put some reverence into this irreverent pop song, and we'll add some pathos.
It's the same reason I don't like the ska covers, because they're taking songs that I think are predominantly better from the 80s in a light heart. It's like, fuck you, I think these are funny. Isn't it funny if we speed them up and fuck around with them? This song everyone's forgotten about.
Good example is the Gary Jules Tears for Fears cover. I wish I'd chosen that, to be honest.
Yeah, I hate that more.
I liked it at the time, but I've really grown up.
Everything that you're accusing this song of doing, it's not this song that did it, it's the Gary Jules song. Because the Gary Jules cover of Mad World is what the John Lewis adverts do. That is an overproduced, slowed down dirge.
I like that song.
This here is a guy with an acoustic guitar doing an acoustic cover of a pop song, which we've all sung.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
I think you guys are talking around in circles about something that's completely pointless, right? So basically, it isn't a throwaway song, I guess, because it was really popular and what, right? The thing that makes it shit is that if you're going to do an acoustic version of a fucking pop song, at least sing it well. Did you hear the backing vocals in that song? The lack of harmony was awful. Who the fuck is doing the backing vocals?
See, I listen to it and I'm like, they're having a bit of fun doing this. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke for them, and I don't hate that. You know, I like when you see bands doing acoustic stuff. Doing stuff like this has never bothered me. It's the sort of thing you'd see at an open mic night in Plymouth. It doesn't mean it's responsible for John Lewis adverts.
It's the open micness of it.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Let me phrase it this way. Let me pose the question. Let me pose the question. Of all the pop artists that are out there right now that are very prevalent in today's pop culture, who do you think would be most likely to cover "Baby One More Time"?
Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And so this performance is very Ed Sheeran-esque, and that's why I don't like it.
If you'd never heard the original song, if you never knew Britney Spears existed, this song is shit. That's it. It's just a crap song. It doesn't matter about any of the, anybody with an acoustic guitar can put some chords together and make this. It's just shit. It's just a crap song, sung badly, played boringly. Fuck it, it's awful.
I couldn't get over the fact that the lead singer just looks like Aaron Paul or Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, and I thought they were about to cook some meth.
Yeah, bitch.
I get the tongue-in-cheek stuff. It just makes you your eyes roll to the back of your head. But at least the Goldfinger song was good. At least the Green Day cover was good. Or the ska cover was at least quite fun to listen to. This song was just a solid 3 out of 10 shite. It's just not very good. That's why I think it's crap. It's just rubbish. It's crap because it's rubbish.
See, this for me is just like any other track from the Radio 1 Live Lounge. I don't dislike it.
But you don't like it. You have no emotion towards it because it's crap.
It exists.
If you have performed on Radio 1 Live Lounge, then you have no right to be making music.
I wouldn't say that at all.
That's not right.
You have no right to be holding an instrument if you have once performed on Radio 1 Live Lounge. You have revoked your entire fucking musical license.
They've had some good people on there.
Yeah, they have.
All I'm saying on this grand sort of spectrum that we're talking about is that Lenin said, to truly understand a subject, you must look at the opposite person's perspective. So, I hold 80s music dear to my heart. You guys hold metal music dear to your heart. If Duran Duran turned around tomorrow and did Rain in Blood in a kind of Richard Cheese-esque kind of way, isn't this so funny?
Yeah, and I get your point.
Duran Duran have paid their dues. Duran Duran.
We're not going to get Duran Duran and the undeniable bangs list today. We're not going there. We're not going there. Give it a few weeks.
Just don't be lazy about your art.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same sort of point I'm saying. It's just like,
don't just go, oh, I'm going to make this fucking electro 80s tune into an acoustic song and it's really easy, because that's not what art is about.
This particular track was recorded like at the end of a live session. It was never. It was just it got released.
It doesn't matter. Oh, this Adele song's great. Oh, well, just listen to the original Adele song.
Just fucking
Don't make a stupid acoustic version of it, so that everyone goes, "Oh, I'm so cool because acoustic guitar." Fucking John Lewis advert bullshit. Fucking hate it.
I think you're conflagrating two different problems. I think there's a big difference. Also, just a quick aside, Martyn, Queens of the Stone Age have played a Radio 1 Live now.
Don't even bring that on.
I was just trying to find a band that Martyn liked that had played, because unfortunately Pearl Jam haven't, but a lot of other bands, I've got it up here now, and quite a few bands that Martyn liked.
We don't want to know if you've got it up there, Tom.
we really want to see those fingers.
That's a different podcast for a different day. Around that time, we also had the insufferable X Factor and their onslaught on the charts. This was actually the Christmas number one of 2011. It was originally called Many of Horror by Biffy Clyro. This is When We Collide by X Factor winner Matt Cardle. And what is there to say? Because it really doesn't add anything to that song at all.
I literally said this. Stuff like this is why X Factor should have been cancelled years earlier. That is all
We're
I
now,
put.
unfortunately, in the defamation of man.
Yeah, this is the worst cover of all time.
I wouldn't go that far. It wasn't good, but I mean, it's not the worst.
No, neither would I. But it's just boring, naff,
soulless,
wimpy, go away. Yeah.
Biffy, a great band.
Arguable.
This is not their best song by any stretch. It's an okay song by a great band that's covered relatively faithfully, but all the distorted guitars taken out. It's sung worse, okay, and then instead of having the big guitar bit, he sort of wails over the top, and then they put a shit unnecessary key change in towards the end, and he misses the opening note, so the key change happens, and he's obviously supposed to hit a note which he's missed, and on the recording version they've edited out him missing the note, so part of what he's singing gets deleted because he's clearly missed the note.
This period in X Factor is also tantamount for doing a load of dodgy stuff, for like putting autotune on supposedly live versions and re-editing and re-releasing studio versions to try and mask over the fact that who they're putting forward, which is more marketable, or in fact shit. So this is high within the highest point of criticism they're getting for this kind of
and I think
techniques.
the thing that hurt, so I hated all of that era, because you've got Alexandra Burke covering Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
It's the worst period in pop music history, I think.
Yeah, because that song particularly is bad because she takes Hallelujah and turns it into like an Aretha Franklin number, which the source material, actually that's giving it too much credit. She turns it into some sort of belting out ballad, which the song just isn't. And like this one, the reason it irks me so much is I think the thing that upset me about this particular cover is they took a not famous track, right? And so X Factor taking a famous song and having that as their Christmas cover, you're like, okay, sort of fair enough. It was there for the taking. This one, they've taken a relatively, for the mainstream, obscure band and a relatively obscure song and then butchered it. And what that tells me is that Matt Cardle was a worse singer than all the people on the series before, because he clearly wasn't good enough to do a mainstream song, so they picked a song that no one else would have. They picked a song that the audience wouldn't have heard of, so when he butchered it, people wouldn't know.
I disagree. I think
It's a good point.
that song's been on the radio. I hear it all the time.
No, see, Many of Horror was not famous until Matt Cardle covered it. It had literally only just come out when he covered it. The Only Revolutions came out that year, and I'm not even sure Many of Horror had been released as a single at that point, because The Captain was the lead.
We're talking
single.
about people that might not even have Grease the soundtrack in their record collection.
Hey, I've got the Grease soundtrack.
Exactly. Point proof.
And you're slightly above the stupid people, so well done.
Yeah, so I'm not sure Many of Horror had even been released as a single, and if it had at this point, because The Captain was the lead single off that album, and then Mountains was the lead single, and then it was The Captain, and then there was The Golden Rule. So all these other tracks were released as singles, and Many of Horror would be considered a deep cut off that album. So to pick that as your X Factor, you know your singer's shit, right? And he is. Well, he's not. He's a better singer than I am.
You won a singing competition.
But like,
he can't be that bad at singing.
read to anybody who wants to diss X Factor. Read Ben Elton's. I think it's called Dead. There's the one where Pop Idol or something. It's a book by Ben Elton where a guy who is sort of Simon Cowell bets he can get Prince Charles to win a singing contest. It's quite a good book.
Can it be by somebody written other than Ben Elton, though?
No, it's written by Ben Elton. I'm sorry.
So, probably not for me.
It's quite well written, and it's not very Ben Elton, if that makes sense. It's worth a read. While we move on to the next track, I'll find out what it's
move
called.
On to the next track, I think, because I think it's generally despised in terms of.
Oh, it's called Charts, Rob.
Okay. So yeah, we'll move on because I think that in terms of we all dislike the X Factor and all that it brought to the pop music scene at the time. This was one of the worst offenders, and yeah, it was just it's really unnotable. So there's not really much more.
It's just a defamation of culture. It's a complete vacuum of what I hold dear.
It feels
in
really
society.
soulless and empty.
Yeah, it feels like everything I hold dear has been ripped out beneath me. And that's the last sort of 10 years of popular culture.
Yeah, all of the X Factor Christmas number ones of the time are the same. It's really, it's a really unremarkable period in music history. So let's not dwell on it any longer.
It's what sparked the Rage Against the Machine getting to number one at that sort of similar time, wasn't it? So people going against that.
Equally as reactionary, but quite similarly boring.
Reactionary. I love the song, but I really wish that somebody had just made a song. That was
something fresh.
Yes, that would have been nice.
Yeah, but you can't. You could have the best song ever, but to have that level of marketing, you just can't compete with that. There's so many people watching who are going to like it and vote for it. You just
exactly,
can't.
But to compete with marketing is not the way to fight.
The music suffered through the commercialism of the pop charts, for certain, in that instance, and it did throughout that period, I think. We'll move to a little bit earlier in terms of time frames because Dan, your least favourite cover is one that a couple of you are dying to get into, and it is the notable day that Take That played Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Now they did play it with instruments, not a backing track. I think you got Mark Owen on bass, Jason Orange on guitar. Was it Howard Donald?
Why are you asking us? I have no idea.
Gary Barlow on lead vocals, and of course Robbie Williams had left the band by this point. But don't worry, we'll get to him in a bit. Dan, Take That. Why is this so awful? Why did it happen? Why?
Well, I'll be honest. I literally Googled a list of worst covers of all time, and this was the funniest choice on the list.
I'm glad you've come clean.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know this existed. I've never heard this before until today, and boy, am I glad about that, because I didn't need to hear this. Although in a weird way, I kind of did, because although it's terrible and it's undeniably terrible, the vocals, everything about it is shocking.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
fun. Like the fact that this exists is a great thing, really, and the fact that they played the instruments, well done. Like they gave it a go.
Well, play the instruments is a.
Yeah, but
We'll play.
they
We'll
didn't
say
just
that
push
loosely.
play on a CD though. That's kind of good.
Like exactly, I'll give them credit because they obviously had a go. You know, like thought, fuck it, we'll play it. In you know, all the middle-aged mums might be impressed, but like as a guy who does play an instrument, they cannot play instruments. Like the guitar, I don't know what they fucking plugged that into. The drumming, just that drum fill is just 8 notes on a snare drum. He couldn't do it once. I was watching him just going, how, like, a fucking...
Fair
like,
play
my
to the
cat
lads,
could probably
though.
do better than that. You know,
They were in
I
good
couldn't believe
shape.
how shit it was. Like, the guitar tone... did he play it on clean, on an untuned guitar? Like, I don't know.
Well, to talk about Robbie Williams for a second, I know it's going to come up later. This reason why he's not included in this band, because it's the exact same period where, like, a year before he'd gone to Glastonbury and he'd kind of kicked back against the whole band and decided that he was going to hang out with Oasis the whole time, and now he's a fucking bad boy. He's going to do some fucking lines with Oasis and fucking chuck off his Take That roots and become a
remember this era.
badass. And then he went kind of solo, and in a way sort of did that. Like, he, depending on whether you particularly like that album or not, is certainly different to what Take That were doing. I think they're equally both as shit, but there's other people that liked it. But they obviously are also picking up on the same vibe in the era. We're like, okay, we're realising now that our audience that we were playing to in the 90s are now, irrelevant. They're gone. They're now listening to whatever, and we either have to pander to that or just go out into insignificance. So this is like the Red Dwarf of a fucking boy band. It's imploding on itself. It's going in complete nothingness, and you've got a fat man from the north with his top off, pretending that he's a grime and fucking grunge act from Seattle.
I was that
I don't
fat.
think he was that fat. I wish I was that fat.
Hearing his vocal when he does the hello, 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 how low, and he sounds
Very
like
high.
a fucking. He sounds like he's auditioning for Fagin in Oliver. It's just painful to listen
Yeah,
to.
because you need to smoke some fucking opium to get to that level of understanding. To just walk out of a boy band and go straight into that is so ludicrous. It's unbelievable. It's comedy. I've said to you before here. It's like it's been written by Steve Coogan or something. It's not a real performance. It's bizarre.
I've got another YouTube comment for everyone. I can't get over the fact. Okay, so this is somebody's, not me. I can't get over the fact that this is actually on Take That's official Vivo and not hiding in some dark corner of YouTube with all involved desperately trying to get it removed. It's ridiculous. If you Google this, it is on their official Vivo. It's only been... They've done it once in their history.
They're chasing the
What else have they got
Yeah.
to be proud of?
I like that.
I'll be honest, like, I'm glad this existed, and it was so bad I started to enjoy it. Like, it's when you see, like, so you can't help it. It's just like, it's so crap. It was just, I'm glad this exists. Good on you, lads.
Yeah, I'm glad it exists as well. We'll move on, because I think it is time that I really got into some Robbie Williams bashing, because I've selected his debut single as a solo artist. After he split up from Take That, he released a cover of George Michael's Freedom 90 in the summer of '96. And boy, where do I start? Because it's really, 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 really bad. Has anybody got anything that they would like to say to the contrary?
Honestly, I don't like the original, and I didn't think this was that much worse. It was worse, but I didn't think it was
How
that
can
much
you
worse.
not like the original?
I don't like the original much either, but
It's a soul classic.
it's a very, very straight cover.
Yeah, and you don't go toe to toe with George Michael because he'll wipe the floor.
It's a straight cover where it just sounds a lot more 90s. So it's aged tragically badly as well.
It says a lot about his solo career that the first track he released was a cover as well. That's pretty sad.
Did you know? I looked up today. Did you know Robbie Williams is worth £300 million?
That's because everybody sings Angels and now he gets royalties for it.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Maybe you should sign in for Gateshead, Tom.
Yeah, maybe. He'd be worth more than my entire team. No, it's the thing about this cover is I'm not a George Michael fan. I'm not a huge fan of the original. This cover it's almost like the backing track is virtually exactly the same as Freedom 90. It's almost like karaoke.
Yeah.
Clearly it's before he got Guy, what's he called?
Guy Chambers.
Clearly it's before he got Guy Chambers involved. And like this single, it's an okay cover in that it's completely straight and his voice isn't that awful. It's probably George Michael's voice edges it over.
George Michael is a juggernaut.
I don't like George Michael's voice very much either, just for the record. Like, it's not a style of vocal I like, as you know already. I think George Michael's voice is better on it, but other than that, the two songs are basically exactly the same.
The thing is about this song as well is Freedom 90 is a very personal song for George Michael. The lyrics are about how he used to be in Wham and now he wants to be taken seriously. He didn't appear in the video. He had all the supermodels singing the lyrics on his behalf, and he wanted to be taken more seriously as an artist. And what Robbie Williams has done is gone, I want a bit of that, but I don't want to put any effort in, so I'm just going to do the same thing that George Michael did. Not even add anything to the lyrics. It's just a straight cover of something that was very personal to George Michael and really had an impact on his career. And Robbie Williams has just gone, yeah, I'll do the same thing.
What do you expect from someone that spent their entire life living on the surface?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fucking Audi bootleg.
Yeah, he's fucking pond scum. So what do you expect?
I'll give him no regrets. I think that's an okay pop song. It's got Neil Tennant from the Pet Shop Boys on it, so
he's not going to have any regrets because he hasn't got any decisions made for him to regret. Everything that's ever been made for him has been made by somebody else, and he's a fucking puppet of absolute and utter diatribe, and I don't
mind a few of his songs. I'm not a Robbie hater. I like.
Al, I'm going to win you over on this. So Tom really dislikes Survivor's Eye of the Tiger, but he's going to give Robbie Williams a pass.
Yeah,
I've stopped.
Yes, I have.
Robbie Williams could have also been featured on this list for his atrocious cover of an already terrible song when he did "We Are the Champions" by Queen for A Knight's Tale.
Oh God!
Tom's music opinion has absolutely no bearing on my thoughts anymore. It's just whatever. It's just he's wrong. He's he can back up his wrongness by knowing more stuff musically than about stuff than us, but it doesn't matter. He's still wrong. It is what it is, Like
as you said, it's like a disease.
But I don't know. This covers. I don't like this original, and this is a worse version of that. And he just does a bit of weird 90s I'm cool dancing with my, that hat that he all wore, the sort of bucket hat, whatever it is.
He had the sort of Liam Gallagher hair knockoff as well, which was very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, this is bang in the ear of I Want to Be in Oasis.
Yeah, he's got his Puma Kings on, he's just, it is what it is. It's just turd. But
it's condemned to the patch of turd, as a wise man
exactly. And the patch of turd where you cast it.
We will stay in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, because Dave, you've selected a song from 2002 as your worst cover of all time. It's a little bit more than a cover because it's a bit of a mashup of several songs. It's the Sugar Babes. It's the Sugar Babes version of Adina Howard's Freak Like Me, which in itself was based around Sing a Simple Song from Sly and the Family Stone and Bootsy Collins' masterpiece, I'd Rather Be With You, from 1976.
Rather be with you, girl.
But that was all amalgamated into Adina Howard's Freak Like Me.
Yes, of which I have no problem with. Although I'd rather
That's
listen
a
to
G-Funk
Rather Be With You.
sounding R&B, great. It's a great single. I love that song.
Yeah, got no problem with that. The Sugar Babes, and why I've got a problem with this song, is it's kind of 4 or 5 songs murdered all at the same point. And I've heard people say that on mutterings on the social medias, which is on this cup, on the tittle-tattle or shittle-tattle, as I like to call it, people saying that this kind of song is
passable, and, dare I say, a banger. It's not. It murders not only that Adina Howard song that we're talking about, it also murders Our Friends Electric, which is a shoot-off from our very good friend, the old... shit, I'm having a... Thank you, thank fucks.
My dad's favourite artist.
Exactly, to pin back in the old legend, which is Geoff. And also, on the beginning of the video, I'm pretty sure, and I've had a look on the internet of who sampled, it's the video game Frogger.
Yes, it's Frogger that starts the song.
Yeah. So, not only are they murdering one particular cover, they're also murdering other samples. On top of that, what's your general opinion of the girl band? So, I think Moutier has a very good voice. I think Heidi's not got a bad voice, but I also think... Who was the other person? Keisha. Shit!
Heidi wasn't the original third vocalist. Yeah.
So she was the recording artist.
And they're back as the original trio now.
I think this song's all right. Just going to say that now.
I would go as far as to say that this song is a banger. I know that puts me in a group of people that you dislike, Dave, but I really appreciate all the elements coming together. It's made by Richard X, who had form for doing this kind of thing. He made an absolutely banging single.
Had form for murdering multiple songs.
Banging single with Rachel Stevens called Some Girls, and he was also involved with a couple of bangers for Liberty X at the time. Richard X, for me, made some great singles around this period.
I'll be honest, I don't agree with Dan on Rachel Stevens or Liberty X, but I do agree with him on this particular track. I really like it.
I know, it seems to be unilaterally loved.
I don't like it. I've never liked the Sugar Babes. I thought it was shit. So there you go, Dave.
Good song from a good album.
I don't like the Sugar Babes, but I like this one, and I think it's because I love Our Friends Electric so much that I just listened to that through the whole thing, and then I really like the rest of the song.
I never got on board with Sugar Babes. I always thought that just underwhelming. Just
at the time, I felt similarly, but I've since gone back and listened to their discography, and it's better than I.
Oh, so once again, I'm not fighting with current Dan. I'm fighting with future Dan.
Yeah, your Poptimist Dan is very much. I like this. I'm drawn to this.
No, I like the original. I prefer the original one that like Dave showed us, just because it reminds me of like every backbeat of 90s rap I like from the West Coast. So I'm on board.
Which is why I dislike it. I listen to this.
There's also apparently
I don't like it.
I can't place where the sample says it's from, but on Who Sampled It reckons. Now this may be a troll because this Who Sampled is kind of like Wikipedia. It reckons a jungle track called DJ Gunshot Pull Up is sampled at some point during this record. And it's kind of like a dubstep and grime staple. It's a jungle tune, basically. But the sample was kind of like the piss take in every Ali G song or whatever. But it reckons it's somewhere in this track. I'm yet to find it. If anybody would like to have a look and try and find DJ Gunshot's Pull Up, I'll buy you a pint if you see me down the pub.
I'll leave that for Martyn.
This song's kind of like a roast dinner in all the aspects of it I love. So you've got your meat and your potatoes, which is like your Dina Howard cover, but then around that you've got like the peas of Bootsy Collins, and it's all mixed with some Gary Newman gravy. I love it. It's great. Get it down.
Now this is exactly the reason I fucking hate it, because this song was out at the same time I was at university. People would come up while we were in this stupid fucking nightclub that was on the university, which you couldn't fucking leave, and say, "Oh, don't you think this track's amazing?" It's like, well, no, because it's murdering this track, this track, this track, this track, and this track that I like. It was the same for like Blue All Rise. That was the most embarrassing track I've ever had, because it starts off with Biggie's Hypnotize as an absolute
banger.
I love Notorious B.I.G.'s Hypnotize, but it comes in verbatim coming in, says and I'm like, fucking yes, it's Biggie Hypnotize. And then 2 seconds later it's Blue All Rise, and I look like a fucking dickhead because I've just thrown my stool over the bar like, yeah. Like, I'm a fucking
I
Blue
think you'll
fan.
find it's Fly By 2, not
All
Rise. All Rise is a banger, and I also think that Fly By 2 is a banger. We will we'll move on to our final cover for this evening. It is Five Finger Death Punch, and their version of Gone Away by The Offspring. The original is kind of well, it's a slower Offspring song, but it still maintains their pop punk edge. Whereas Five Finger Death Punch's version doesn't do any of that.
Okay, so my main issue is, so basically The Offspring is the band that got me into rock music in general. Like, I listened to Pretty Fly for a White Guy on Top of the Pops. I think I've talked about this before, and that's just what got me into just rock music. I bought all their albums, listened to all of them. It's on probably my favourite Offspring album, Ixnay on the Hombre, and it might be my favourite song on that album. So by that logic, it could be perceived as my favourite Offspring song. Like, when we were younger and we were all learning instruments, we tried to cover it. Like, this is how ingrained this song was into our childhood, or my childhood. So when I found out that Five Finger Death Punch did a cover, made it like a, dickhead rock song, the sort of thing Mars made, the sort of thing Pearl Jam would do. And
Martyn has had to leave early, so he's not here to defend himself. So,
they turned it into like just a butt rock song about fucking like American troops not coming back from Iraq, which it is what it is. And obviously people like people being alive and coming home. Is what that is. But they've completely changed the entire. I mean, I guess that's probably a good cover. Then it is. They've changed the original tone and made it their own. But I think it's because I like the original song so much, and they've just changed everything about it to make it the most generic wank I've ever fucking heard.
They've ruined it.
What do you think about the Offspring's piano version of Gone Away off their
Never heard it.
2021 album?
Listen to it.
I wish that it did go away.
So I'll be honest. So I came at this track from a really weird place because I never really got that into the Offspring. I knew a couple of the singles, but I didn't.
Their early stuff is good.
Yeah, I didn't know the original of this song, so I listened to the So I went on Spotify and searched the Offspring Gone Away, and I ended up listening to the Five Finger Death Punch version, and then the Offspring piano version of their 2021 album. Now, which is more tragic.
The problem is, I haven't bought an Offspring album since Conspiracy of One, which was the last one. That's a brilliant album, but
it's not a good album.
I might have to listen to it again, but I'm not taking your opinion on it because shut up.
It has a certain nostalgic.
Yeah, but I like Conspiracy of One, and I value my opinion more than yours, so you're wrong. Anyway, so fuck you, Will. It's a good album.
Objection withdrawn.
To be fair, you are right. There's going to be certain nostalgia, but like the Offspring right now, like they're not the band like that they were. Like the bass player quit, and then they decided to make the Offspring a corporation, and then they tried to. He's a fucking founding member, and then tried to stiff him out of any royalties from any of the albums that he helped write. That's like, and now they're going through like legal cases, and it's basically the most unpunk rock thing ever. And they haven't made anything good like since Conspiracy One. Like arguably Conspiracy One might be rubbish.
Arguably, even that album is where they started going downhill.
Like Splinter weren't very good, and I mean, have you heard that? Like this,
how do you fuck up a collaboration with Redman?
The problem is as well. Like I listened to one of their new singles recently, and they've decided we're not relevant anymore. Let's try and make another Pretty Fly for a White Guy. I can't remember what the song's called. You may want to YouTube their newest single, but it's like they're going for a wacky.
They're the worst band, though, man.
Man, it's they're good. I mean, I can understand if you don't like their, poppier stuff from like Americana and stuff, like Pretty Fly for a White Guy. I get that.
I've been unfortunate enough to see them live 3 times, and they start the song and I don't know it, and they finish the set and I don't know it, and I can't tell the difference.
Well, you could say about anything.
Every single song.
You can say about any.
No, you can't.
Bands,
That band has every single fucking drum pattern the same, every single chord pattern the same. It's the punk triangle of CGGA or whatever the fuck it is, and every single whiny lyric that he does. That's all I heard. It's just like a fly trapped in a bottle with the same 4/4 shit funk.
If you're just joining us, we are live on Zoom with the Offspring.
Look, I will take your opinion on board. I will process that, and I will allow you to have your opinion. But I have the same opinion of I don't know, like Men at Work or whatever. I couldn't tell you the difference between the songs.
Hey, Men at Work are all right. Overkill's a brilliant song.
No, I'm just saying though, like if you know, anyway, I really like The Offspring. I'm definitely not alone. I think Smash is still the record holder for the most album sales in an independent record. So you know, like people
Most
like
album sales to autistic weirdos.
It's a good album, Smash, and Ixnay on the Ombre is good, and I love Want You Bad, and then I Can Take or Leave Them.
Anyway, we're talking about the cover anyway. I'm not sure, like, I don't know what you guys think of the cover. I think...
I much prefer the Offspring version, yeah.
The Offspring version's good. It's got energy. This one, to give you an idea, the top comment on YouTube, again, I know I'm going back to that well, is from the Military Arms channel. This is the kind of audience that they've attached to this. You guys rock. Thank you for supporting our troops. Outstanding cover. So much more depth than the Offspring version. Then another comment. This video hits deep right now with everything happening in Afghanistan. And to me, they're just playing on that. And that's where they're trying to make success out of people's feelings, when really it's like a pathetic money grab to try and go, oh, it's all about our troops. No, they've ruined the song, and they've tried to make it based on that.
Let's just face it, Five Finger Death Punch are a combination of two things in music that I hate. They're a combination between Creed...
they're the metal equivalent of Creed.
They're a combination between... They're partly Creed, and then they're partly... Five Finger Death Punch. I'm going to get in so much trouble for saying... Dan, be really careful with how you edit this bit. Do you remember how all the really weird... slightly overweight goth girls with the black Nirvana hoodies.
I'm going to have so much fun with this editing, aren't I? Right, go on.
You know how they were all really into him?
Yeah.
In the early 2000s. Five Finger Death
Bam Margera groupies.
Five Finger Death Punch are a combination of him and that genre.
I kind of get it. Like, Five Finger Death Punch are essentially like, to be honest, I don't hate them like everyone else hates them. Not because I like their music, but I kind of like that. I don't like them, but they're kind of in the same like realm of people that like are really into like, I don't know, like Insane Clown Posse. You know what I mean?
Oh,
or like
no, not the Juggalos.
Yeah, but like there's a. This is, for me, it's just trailer trash white American music.
The fact that this conversation has even gone down this route of just like the scum of society means that this is not a good song.
No, but there was this sort of early 2000s. There was this sort of metal that was okay for girls to like. But it's like Five Finger Death Punch get the same sort of female adulation.
They're the Yorkie of metal bands.
It isn't. I completely disagree. I don't think it is that. I don't think those type of people listen. It's basically Chad rock. You know, the internet term for Chad. You know, like that's what they are. It's just Chad rock. It's Chad metal.
I'd go one step further and say it's incel rock.
Chad rock is yacht rock for people that haven't bought a yacht yet.
It's just a really commercial version of metal where it's got loads of clean vocals. It's just heavy enough to think you're listening to heavy music. You know, it's a sort of thing that would have like a chorus saying, "Here comes the boom." You know, like it's a sort of, it's like that level of metal where like I don't dislike them because of it. I kind of appreciate that if people just go, "Ah, fuck it, I like it. Fuck you, it's cool. It's got a good chorus." But like, and we're like trying to hyperanalyze this douche rock.
Yeah, that's you.
But like. You know, but if you like, if you like it, you like it. But I don't know. This song specifically, it's just there is no reason. Like the basically what this song is trying to do, they could have easily written a song in the same vein, saying the same message. There is no need at all to even have a cover for this. This type of song is very easy to write. It's essentially those war, like those pro-war like country songs, but a metal version about the troops coming home. And they know that people are gonna like it because in America they're all really pro, military and all that stuff.
Because the people that want the troops to come home nicely are also brainless.
Everyone wants them to come home, Dave.
Some of us don't want them to go anywhere in the first place.
Well, some of us, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Dan. I fucking love you.
It's a very strangely similar music video to "Wake Me Up When September Ends" by Green Day, but with the complete opposite message.
It's the John Cena of metal.
It is. That's exactly that. You have nailed it right on the head. It is the John Cena of metal music.
I'm just quickly to add though, if you think the Five Finger Death Punch version is bad, listen to the piano version on the new Offspring album.
I can't. Like, they're just old men now trying to be edgy. It can't.
It will make it's worse. The piano version on the 2021 album is worse
I'm
than
never
the
gonna
Five Finger
listen, I can't.
Death Punch album. So the Offspring covered their own song worse than Five Finger Death Punch.
The Offspring right now are old men playing music they probably don't even like anymore. That's what I think. They're just, they just know that if we go on tour, we'll make this much money for going on. I don't think there's anything left in the music.
Round off with a couple of things. So we've had a couple of comments on Facebook. We've had Kat Goldsmith has said that Knock Knock Knocking on Heaven's Door by Guns N' Roses is a good cover. I agree.
I'd agree.
No.
Jennifer Curtis says Alien Ant Farm's Smooth Criminal, which I'm not having. I'm just not having. I know some of you guys love it.
Dan B and
I like it.
Agree.
It's just better.
Ricky South says Shape of My Heart by Sting, which was covered by Danny Freya, who was on Eurovision, so that may be worth checking out. Ben Smart has put on here, of course, Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah, which we discussed. Michael Jackson's cover of Come Together, which I used to love, but now that I'm more familiar with the original, it's not quite as good. He's gone for DMA's Believe. Soft Cell, Tainted Love, which is of course a classic that we haven't mentioned.
I thought that was the original, so I was a bit lost then.
Soft Cell version is great, especially when covered with Where'd My Love Go on the B-side as well. It's a great performative piece combining the two. David Bowie's cover of his own song, which was done by Mott the Hoople, or the Young Dudes. He did a few live versions of his own song that was recorded by them, which is pretty good, but I do love the original, I think. There's so many. Any last words from any of you guys in terms of anything else you wanted to cover?
Despite what Martyn said earlier, he actually does quite like Travis. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Martyn is the man who likes Travis.
It's kind of his go-to band, actually. If you go around Martyn's flat, you're listening to Travis.
As always, please check us out on Twitter at CACSessionspod. You can follow us on Facebook. Give our YouTube channel a go, even if you are waiting for something that isn't a Prince video. As we said earlier, we've got stuff on the blog, and we'll be putting out our album of the year 2021 in 2022. So we'll be back in the next episode. So from me, make sure you stay funky, and from the rest of the guys,
try to stay funky, lads. Just try.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Martyn and Dan say stay funky as well.